Hey, all right, excellent. Good morning. We are starting off with the vegetable lady, so I'm sure you guys are super excited. Sometimes they put me after lunch or before lunch is the worst because you guys just get hangry in the middle of it. But my name is Megan Lautz. I am a registered dietitian that specializes in first responders. I am local. I live in Linthicum, but I commute to Fairfax like an idiot. Um, so I work full time as Fairfax County Fire and Police dietitian. So they hired me as a civilian dietitian. We have a pretty stacked wellness program of strength coaches, athletic trainers, physical therapists, all of those things. Um, and basically, what I do every day is one-on-one coaching with firefighters and police officers. I also do a lot of wrap demos, smoothie demos, those kinds of things, because I find if I come to the station and bribe you with food, you guys listen better for at least 2 seconds, right? So today, everything we're going to talk about is really practical, tactical stuff that you can do on shift, right? And before we get into the practical tactical, I want to talk about some of how the career impacts your nutrition and your fitness. Because a lot of times people just overlook this stuff, right? How many times on the internet, or maybe even as a pure fitness trainer, you might have said some of these things yourself where people just need to suck it up, right? Embrace the suck, deal with it, eat healthy, be fit. And that's just the requirement of the job. And I'm not saying that that stuff isn't true, but we also have to look what's going on behind the curtain for a lot of our first responders, because the first responders coming to me are not the guys with six-pack abs, right? These are the people who have been struggling for years. Maybe they went through a divorce. They just had their kids and they're starting to struggle and things are starting to crack. They've gained 20, gained 30 pounds and they want to be fit, want to be healthy, but with the extra time, the long commutes and all those other factors, it becomes really hard to do it. Or it's not as easy as it was when you were a 22-year-old bachelor, right? So a lot of times when we're starting off in the academy, I know you guys start off with fire, so very quickly that physical activity is very high. Most of our recruits actually struggle with getting enough calories in, right? So sometimes they compensate with energy drinks. We see a lot of fun, stupid behavior with that, at least in Fairfax. Um, but usually their weight goes down, right? And then as a rookie, as a probie, they get into the field and maybe that physical activity maintained, but now they are at the mercy of whoever's cooking at the shift, right? And sometimes that's brats and tots, and sometimes we have a station in Fairfax that's vegan, which was shocking to me, quite frankly. Um, but they start to struggle with the weight at about that time. Either they gain weight or they lose weight. I've seen as much as 20 pounds in that first 6 months of a probe year. And then you get into the field, a 20, 25, 30-year career. What we start to see is the physical activity down. And sometimes it's not because they don't want to be fit, but how many people that that retire with a back, shoulder, neck, and knee injury, right? Or at least three of the above. Most of them are retiring with some sort of injury. And a lot of people overlook that, right? If you blow out your shoulder and you're a power lifter and your favorite exercise is benching, are you going to start running? And all the power lifters I know are not going to be running anytime soon. That's why they're power lifters, right? Um, so it becomes harder to do it. We also talk about mental injury, right? You don't run a pediatric code and run back to the station and say, I want to eat a salad. So that impacts your food choices. It can also impact how much food you eat. It can go either direction. And then also, stuff behind the scenes, having babies, getting divorced, right? Divorces are really challenging for people, not only financially, but emotionally, and that impacts food and fitness, right? So it's not to start the presentation off as this like fancy kind of thing, but what we actually see over the course of that 20 to 25, 30-year career is a 20 to 50 pound weight gain, right? When we look at the data at our health clinics. And the reason behind the scenes is they don't have time, they don't have energy, and they have limited budgets, right? Especially the more kids you have, the further away you live, that kind of stuff. And then the challenge is the expectations, right? So the 9 to 5, I used to work at Core Life in Severna Park, which is and I worked with a lot of the soccer moms in Severna Park. If you're not from the area, you're probably familiar, right? And they have nannies and they have all this help, and they're like, it's just so hard to get these 5 pounds off. That's not my first responders, right? Um, they don't have that support. A lot of times they're doing mommy, daddy daycare when they do get off shift, or they're picking up extra overtime. They're doing a lot of things. But the expectation for them compared to the soccer moms is that they are expected to perform 110% at every single call all the time, right? but we have the exposure to trauma, the lack of sleep, and high stress jobs that kind of put them in the basement. And a lot of times what I see is, I don't know if anybody remembers the Engine 2 diet. Was anybody around when the Engine 2 diet was a thing? Yeah, it was low fat vegan, which seems like a good idea. Like, it's not that vegan diets are bad. It's just, have you read the room when you see firefighters? They don't go vegan typically, at least, right? So sometimes these diets are actually asking you to get to that second story window without the ladder that slowly gets you up to where. So really what this brings me today, what I like to call the first one process. So anytime someone starts working with the first few things that we work on to make their lives easier, so they have backup, and then we start talking maybe about calories and macros. Sometimes we start off with that, but the nutrition piece needs to be tailored to the lifestyle of the responder. I don't have time, I don't have energy. So how do I work around that, right? So now, of course, what are some of the challenges that we're dealing with creating the station, right? So you guys do lunch and dinner here in Fairfax at the Fed situation for lunch. But these are some of the things that we see not only in person at the stations, but also in the research for firefighters and food. So we see a lot of large portions, fast on go, especially if you're at a busier station, right? Like, you're trying to inhale whatever food you can get your hands on before the lady in the ceiling starts yelling at you, right? Um, then you wonder why your stomach's hurt, right? And listen, I get it. Like, you don't know when you're going to eat next, so it's easy to do that. But you also tend to bring that home, right? And then you're eating like that even when you're sitting eating breakfast with your family. From a food choice standpoint, typically we see a lot of high fat, red meat, low fiber food choices. So things that are processed and familiar. How many of you guys have worked with someone like an older captain or engineer who still wants to keep it at $5 a head for lunch and dinner? Not in this economy, right? We're not even making that for dinner, right? Now most people are putting at least $10 in for dinner, which in the past 5 years it feels like it's jumped up substantially. So, of course, working with first responders, I get all kinds of pictures on the internet, right? This is a bacon wrapped cheese stuffed meatloaf that they were very proud of. It's very nice. They could have done better with the bacon lattice, in my opinion. And then this is another one. This was a shift in Gaithersburg who told me they didn't have enough money for vegetables at dinner. Like $10 a head. What? Um, and this is school lunch. So they spent $140 on hot dogs, spaghettios, onion rings, and chicken nuggets. Okay? $140 from 2018. Where are you buying this? So I get a lot of these silly pictures. Cardiac casserole is another one that I can put up with interesting choice. But we have lots of different interesting food choices by the first responders, right? And again, this isn't every shift, this isn't every station. I know there are a lot of stations out there who are trying to eat healthier now, right? But these are some of the tendencies. The other thing is the sweets on the counter, the donuts, the treats on the counter, I'm sure, especially around the holidays, are almost unavoidable. Sometimes we see purposeful dehydration that's more on the food side, and then lots of caffeine and sugar sweetened beverages. So what we are trying to do is actually shift the culture. And anybody who works in the fire service knows that firefighters hate two things: change and the way it is, right? So the culture shift is probably going to take longer than I'm going to be around in the fire service, right, for my career. But we are trying to change the portion sizes, right? Appropriate portions, eating a little bit slower, with higher fiber, get more reasonable amounts of caffeine. We'll talk about all these things, and then making some better choices. So I finally get a picture of one of my recipes, and it looks like vomit. So that's not helping my case. But this is the Reese's smoothie. So this is the smoothie that I usually bring out to stations because it tastes like chocolate and peanut butter, right? I got them easily. So it's a banana, scoop of chocolate protein powder, peanut butter, spinach, and whatever milk of choice, right? So the spinach is where everybody, starts looking at me sideways. The rule is you have to try it. If you don't like it, you can talk crap, right? So that's a really easy, quick option. Smoothies, wraps. Ryan at lunch is going to give you a handout with a bunch of my wraps. The buffalo chicken wrap is the most popular one. Really easy. You can make 20 of them in 20 minutes after the chicken's cooked in the crock pot. So keep an eye out for that. But let's actually get into the nitty-gritty. Now, I might have mentioned vegan, right? Like, we talked about Engine 2. Engine 2 kind of fizzled out. Actually, the union did a study of 3,500 firefighters, surveying them on a bunch of different diets without the names of the diet. And they like paleo, Mediterranean, keto, and engine two. And engine two actually ends up on the bottom of that scale in terms of firefighters wanting to follow. And why does that matter? Because it's a perfect diet. If no one wants to follow that perfect diet, it's not the perfect diet. If you're not going to do it, it's not the right one, right? And actually, that study suggested that Mediterranean was the most popular study, and that is a great option because it gives a lot of variety. But really, the thing that we can't avoid is the plant piece, which flies in the face of carnivore right now. Here we are on another low fat kicks again, fire service, or high fat kicks again, fire service. But plant focus is not vegan. It's focusing on what's lacking in firefighter diets, right? So, what is the first thing to go when your lunch is delayed by 3 hours and you roll up to the Chick-fil-A parking lot, right? You're not getting a salad. We're blacking out and getting the biggest French fry, probably a milkshake, and whatever chicken sandwich is going to stuff down the pain of that you haven't had lunch for 3 hours and you're hangry and you're tired and you're cranky, right? So, fruits and veggies tend to not be the quickest, the easiest, or sometimes even the tastiest for a lot of people, right? So this is what we're focusing on adding into the diet because this gaps. And why are these so important for the firefighter diet, right? They're high in antioxidants and they're high in fiber, right? So antioxidants, why are they important? Cancer prevention, right? Cancer, really now we call it cancer risk reduction because we can't entirely prevent cancer. And cancer risk reduction is primarily eating more fruits, more veggies, more whole grains to get the antioxidants you need to clear up free radicals. Because your job exposes you to free radicals significantly more than the general population. And as humans, we're exposed to free radicals in the day to day. Exercise actually causes your body to generate more free radicals. Routines can cause free radical production. Lack of sleep, high stress jobs, pollutions, diesel fumes, your gear, all of these things expose you to free radicals. And the way we clean that up is through antioxidants, right? So antioxidants actually have an extra electron that they can donate over to free radicals, which are unstable molecules that are missing an electron. They try to steal that from healthy tissues, and that can cause disease long term. So, if you want to balance out free radical exposure, we actually increase your plant intake, right? So, focusing on the antioxidants can not only help with cancer risk reduction, if that's not really what you're thinking of, but also shift recovery, right? Recovering from shift. So, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are 24/72s, a little bit better than the Fairfax on off, on off, on off 4 day, right? Like that's a nightmare of a schedule. You get a little bit more recovery, but this can help you get back to where you want to be with your family when you do have off days. So antioxidants are very important there. The other thing that anybody who's ever worked with me or followed me on the interwebs know that I nag about fiber, and I will nag about fiber until the day that I die. Why? Because again, most of my first responders are coming to me eating maybe 5 to 10 grams of fiber per day. 5 to 10 grams of fiber per day. The American Heart Association recommends 25 grams for women per day and 30 to 38 grams of fiber per day for men. So most of my first responders are not scratching the surface when it comes to fiber. So they come to me and they think I'm going to be like, okay, let's talk about your macros. We're going to pull back carbs and pull up fat. We're going to do all these fancy things. When I'm just like, we're not doing anything until you eat your fiber. Why? Why is fiber so important? Well, number one, it keeps you full. And a lot of people are coming to me saying, Megan, I'm hungry all the time. All the time. I feel like I could eat, I can snack, I can pick things up. We all know the quarter of the donut situation, quarter of a cookie, right? So if you eat more fiber, it will keep you more full. It adds bulk to the stomach, right? The other thing is fiber actually can help with cholesterol. So if you've ever gone to Ock Health, and I know, is it Concentra? Yeah, Concentra. They mess up your labs every 2 years. It feels like everybody suddenly has liver enzyme issues. But if you see your cholesterol creeping up and you've noticed it's also at your primary care and you're here in the county, fiber actually acts like silly putty. Everybody remember where you could like slap it on the newspaper and peel off the writing? It rolls through your arteries, picking up excess LDL cholesterol and excess blood glucose in the case of diabetes. So what that means is it helps pull out the excess LDL and eliminate it through your poop. So if you need help regulating your cholesterol, we increase the fiber in the diet to these numbers: 25 grams per day for women, 35 to 38 grams per day for men. How do I know if I'm hitting those numbers? I'll usually have people log in FitnessPal or Fat Secret. If anybody knows my FitnessPal, they put everything behind a paywall for the past 5 years, which is a pain in the butt. So Fat Secret is the free FitnessPal that has the barcode scanner and all the bells and whistles. So fiber is a key factor here. You can log and see where you're at. The other thing with fiber that a lot of people don't realize is that there are studies that suggest that if you are low in fiber, so the 5 to 10 grams that my standard person is coming to me with, for every 10 grams of fiber you increase that with, we see a 10% overall risk reduction for overall mortality. So lower risk for cancer. And keep in mind, this can help with colon cancer. And colon cancer is one of the, I believe, presumptive cancers that is now covered, right? So this is really important for overall risk reduction, but it also helps you in your day-to-day, right? Keeps you full, keeps you less hangry. So usually what happens is when we pull up the fiber, firefighters have a little bit less sugar cravings. They stop picking up food as much because they're actually full enough to get through, right? So how do we do this when we are on the go, right? Because a lot of times dietitians will come out, they'll show you the plate, and it's like half of your plate is vegetables, and you're like sitting there like, I don't even eat off the plate half the time, lady. So what do we do that's going to be quick and easy? So these are some of the things that are portable, packable. We'll talk more about go bags shortly. But Smart Pop, Skinny Pop, white cheddar popcorn. Has anybody ever had this? Yeah, delicious, excellent. So a lot of people chips. Who doesn't love chips? I love chips. I'm not allowed to be unsupervised with a bag of chips because I'll eat them and then hate myself. But popcorn is a whole grain technically. It has about 2 grams of fiber per serving, which isn't a ton. Like it's not super exciting, but the serving size is 2 cups. If anybody's ever looked at the back of a bag of tortilla chips or regular potato chips, serving size is 7 chips. And most of us are eating 7 chips while we're looking in the pantry to find something else, right? So this gives you a lot more serving size bang for your buck. If you are in a light duty or day work position, maybe you've moved up the chain a little bit, we also recommend this as a car snack. So a car snack is to prevent you from eating everything that's not tied down when you finally get home, right? So you know how you get home from work and you have this, the stress of the day just like hits you as soon as you walk in the door. And next thing you know, you're eating everything that's in front of you. We eat a car snack on the way home to help cut that in, right? Other things, so Pine Press bars or That's It bars are dried fruit just mashed into a ball. Really quick, really easy. I don't know if anybody's tried the blend jets or the Ninja now has the portable blenders. Anybody see the portable blenders? These have a micro USB charger. They usually do at least 3 to 4, I feel like, consistently charges, and you can put this on the go. So if you work at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and you wake up, it's like if you wake up before you leave with the blender, you can actually load. I know this from experience. You load up the blender and you put it in the car, or something that you have at the station, and you do as a post-workout shake or whatever. It's really quick. It's convenient. If you are in the academy and you're an instructor, this is what I recommend recruits do on the ride home. Again, because their problem is also eating everything that's not tied down when they get home from the academy. Other things, coleslaw veggies. So the buffalo chicken wrap actually has a handful of coleslaw veggies rolled into the wrap. And the reason for that is most dietitians will say, well, on the side of your wrap, you have celery and carrots that you can get a veggie. Who wants to eat celery and carrots on the side of a wrap? Not me. I was raised eating chips, right? So we rolled that wrap so then you don't have to sit out on the side. It's much more affordable. It's convenient, right? So this is the buffalo chicken wrap. The other thing, nuts, seeds, that kind of stuff is really helpful fiber. So this helps you eat more full. Now, the other thing that I noticed with my first responders is the counter snacks. How are the counter snacks for you guys right now? So not the holidays, right? The holidays are really tough for you guys. Holidays are awful. Stacks, right? So this is an interesting. I think it's still preliminary since we finally got the paper out. This is from Dr. Jill Joyce out of LSU. So they have a tactical. She is a dietitian that specializes in as well. And what she did was she grant funding to donate a bunch of healthy snack options 2 stations in her area. So things like clementines, granola bars, nuts and seeds, bananas, veggie trays, that kind of stuff. What she found was that, oh, actually, I forgot to mention the main rule. The main rule was in order to receive that donation, all the treats had to be hidden in a closed pantry or out of sight, out of mind. Only her stuff could be on the counter. And she found that first responders ate an additional pound of produce per shift when the healthy stuff was on the counter and the crap was in the cabinet. Because what happens when this stuff is on the counter, right? Between every single call, you guys are cutting a quarter of a donut, and then the next call, you're cutting a quarter of a donut, and then your next call, you're cutting a quarter of a donut, and then you tell the dietitian you only had a quarter of a donut, but really you've actually had like 7 donuts that day. I'm on to you. Uh, I'm really mean, I know. So if we can hide these things, it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So a lot of times in the holiday season, I'm trying to get my first responders to hide all the crap that comes in, just so they're not tempted as much, right? Keeping the healthy stuff on the counter really can matter. Another thing, so these are some of, again, the first run tactics, trying to change your environment, right? Because what do first responders do? Oh, healthy eating has to suck, right? It has to be awful. I have to be kind of low-key miserable in order to be healthy. And that's a misnomer, right? Really, it's just changing your environment a little bit so that you're not noticing it and not ADHDing around the station, eating everything that's not tied down. Keeping it behind a closed door can make a difference. And then also thinking about nutrition by addition. So I had a homicide detective who picked up a lead on a case, and she picked up like 50 hours of overtime in 2 weeks. She's living on the bus. She's chasing down leads. She's exhausted, barely getting home. And she was beating herself up because the day before she had gotten a piece of pizza and a side salad as her lunch, which honestly is not the worst option, right? Because how many of us, when we're having a brutal 2 weeks and we get to go to a pizza place, are getting a slice of pizza and a side salad? Not me. I'm getting as much pizza that I can stuff in my face, and then I'm going to be greasy and feel like crap for the rest of the day. That's somewhere between 2 and 4 pieces of pizza, which can be impressive for a small blonde lady, right? So with that, sometimes getting a little bit what you crave can actually take the edge off. But what we're trying to do is round it out with a better option, right? So that can be, for a guy, that might be 2 pieces of pizza and a side salad. That can be a grilled chicken sandwich and a side of fries, a burrito bowl with some tortilla chips, right? If you're really having a rough few weeks, it's not the end of the world to, split the difference. Get one thing that's not the healthiest and one thing that's a little bit better. Because the other thing that I see with first responders is, well, I'm just never allowed to have pizza again. And what happens when you tell a first responder that they're never allowed to have pizza again? What's the first thing that pops up in their brain? Pizza, right? And then when you finally get your hands on a pizza, you blacked out and eaten the whole thing, right? So, and I know I used to do bodybuilding. I don't look like it anymore. That's what I would do. You told me that I wasn't allowed to have something. I'm inhaling it as soon as I get it, right? So this kind of takes away the like forbidden fruit situation when it comes to food. Now, the other thing when we talk about nutrition from or by addition is snacks. So the other thing I see first responders make a mistake with is they realize they're snacking too much. So they're like, too many snacks, let's just cut them all out. Guess what happens when you cut out all your snacks? You cut out half your calories, then you end up hangry. You get to dinner, you get to lunch, and you're inhaling like 3 plates of food, right? So some of the witchcraft that as a dietitian for first responders that I do is actually pull some of your calories up earlier in the day so you're not blackout hangry by the time you get to the station for dinner, right? So healthier snacks, higher quality snacks that are higher in protein and higher in fiber. Protein to maintain your muscle or maximize muscle gain, and then fiber to help keep you full. And then, like I said, cancer risk reduction, blah, 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 blah. So, and we'll talk about some go bag options as well. Another thing, another little adage or rule that I like to do is the 1 sweet per shift rule, right? A lot of my first responders want to cut out sugar entirely forever. And I don't see that as realistic, right? Sometimes I can do like a sprint, like we do a month no sugar challenge, and that works really well for my first responders. But like having them never have like sweets ever again, this is brutal. Like you can never have a cupcake at your kid's birthday party. That's kind of lame, right? So the 1 sweet per shift rule is actually a way that I can challenge you to limit your sweets and you're not grazing on them nonstop. So if you've noticed that you have pretty high sugar cravings on shift, then what we do is we try to get strategic. Where is your sugar cravings the absolute worst, right? And where is it that you're just eating it mindlessly? And most people's sugar cravings on shift are the worst at 2 a.m. Or 2 to 4 p.m. and 2 to 4 a.m., right? That third midnight call, right? That's where they're seeing their highest sugar craving. Now, the other thing that I have to say here is there's other things that are going on that could potentially lead to you craving sweets. So I have had in the past year, at least 3 or 4 of my first responders come to me with really strong sugar cravings. They feel like they can't put it down. They want to eat sweets all day. And then I ask them about their sleep. And they're like, oh no. So the sleep factor here. With one night of bad sleep, we see a 24% increase in hunger and due to a shift in hunger hormones. We see an 18% decrease in leptin, the hunger suppressing hormone, and a 28% increase in ghrelin, the hunger stimulating hormone. So the next day you feel more hungry. You reach for salty foods, sweet foods, fatty foods, brunch, if you will, right? So those are the things that people gravitate towards. That's one night of bad sleep. That's not y'all, right? You're having regular nights of bad sleep, especially if you're going home. So those 3 people that I was talking about were actually between the ages of 28 and 32. We sent them to get a sleep study done, and all of them ended up having some form of sleep disorder. And that's interesting. Why? Because a study of 7,000 firefighters found that 37% of firefighters had a sleep disorder and 80% of them didn't know it. And the reason I'm mentioning ages is because my younger firefighters hear that and they're like, that's not going to happen until I'm like 40 or like 50, right? No, wrong. It's in their 20s. It's in their 30s. Think about it. If you start in the fire service at 18, 22, by the time you get to 30, you're 8 to 12 years in. Right? 8 to 12 years in on shift work is real quick to mess up your sleep. So this actually is a big red flag for me to look at people's sleep. And you may think as a dietitian, what is the dietitian talking about sleep for? I need to figure out what's going to make this easier for you. And if sleep's a problem, we got to fix that first. If mental health is a problem, we got to fix that first, right? So sleep studies. I'm not as familiar as clinics in the areas. Anybody know? Has anybody been to a clinic in the area? Not really. I'm sure Annapolis has one. But sleep studies, the way these work, you call, and then within 3 months, you will eventually get a consult. So it takes a lot of time. If some of this stuff sounds a little weird, schedule a consult with a sleep study. They can either do this virtually for 30 minutes or you go in person. Now, you may think that you have to go to some scary hotel room where some weird dude is just looking at you all night. Wrong. Since COVID, they have gotten a lot better with the sleep study equipment that you can actually go and pick up the equipment, take it home, and take a home test. Now, there are certain conditions or certain risk factors that they may make you go to the scary hotel room where someone's watching you all night. It's not as bad as you think. But that usually takes about a 3 to 4, sometimes 6-month process, because you also have to keep in mind, like sometimes you guys book an appointment and then something happens with the kids and you can't make it. But if your sugar cravings are out of control and you're sleeping less than 5 hours a night, or you're sleeping 5 hours a night and you're tossing and turning, the next day you feel fatigued and your bunk mates tell you you snore like an ox, sleep study, okay? Directly to sleep study. Schedule it by the end of the day. Because this can make a huge difference. One of the guys that I was working with was 32, medic at a busy station, and had 2 one-year-old twins. And I was like, that's probably why you're having trouble, man. He actually ended up getting a sleep study done, major obstructive sleep apnea. Healthy guy, worked out regularly, even though he was exhausted, and ate pretty decent. But he was the sugar cravings. He wasn't losing weight. So we ended up getting a sleep study done. He gets on the CPAP, much to his dismay. And then his energy levels skyrocketed. He was able to play with his kids more, get outside more, work out more, eat a little bit better, 2% body fat down in a month. Okay? So 32 years old, that's pretty young, right? So sleep, coming back to the, oopsie daisies, I pressed too many buttons. Coming back to the sweets thing, 2 sweets per shift is a good starting point too if you're eating a ton, right? So these are ways that we can pull back, but the sleep study thing may not be something you want to sleep on, right? It's dad jokes, right? All right. So, any questions so far? No. Okay. Everybody's still asleep. That's fine. Now, the pre-workout, post-workout thing. So as a dietitian for first responders, I have to make the assumption that you probably should technically be working out at some point, right? In Fairfax, it's actually one of our SOPs that you have to work out at work, kind of a requirement. It doesn't always pan out that way, but we do our best. But how do I eat for my workouts is another big question. And so we prioritize food over supplements. I will talk about briefly a handful of supplements that I recommend, but eating before a workout, we are looking for carbs, right? Carbs. Now, the reason I'm going to hit this really hard is that a lot of my first responders are skipping their pre-workout snacks. A couple reasons for that. One, they're getting up at the crack of dawn and they're like, I can't tolerate it. I'm going to yak. And we don't want you yakking. One time we had a kid at CPAT throw up all over the hose, and that was not a good day for the instructors, right? So we don't want you to yak. The other thing I see is, well, I'm fasting because I'm going to burn more fat. And Dr. Schoenfeld actually studied this pretty extensively, and he actually found that it doesn't really matter if you eat versus skipping before working out. You might burn more fat when you're fasted, but you actually can push harder when you're fed. So it evens out from a calorie burn, weight loss perspective. So why is it so important to eat before your workout? Because I've gotten some of my firefighters off of pre-workout like powders before their workouts with applesauce pouches. And sometimes I get screams from the audience like, that didn't happen. I really need to get a video of him telling people that. Applesauce pouches. Okay. This sounds, yes, like the kind you give your kid. Okay. This sounds ridiculous, but a lot of first responders don't realize that caffeine does not provide energy. It reduces the feeling of fatigue. So as you go throughout your day, around 2 to 4 p.m. for a lot of people is where the sleep pressure starts to build. Adenosine's building up in the brain and making you feel sleepy. If you have your favorite insert energy drink, Red Bull, espresso shot, pot of coffee at the station, the caffeine actually binds to adenosine receptors, kicks the adenosine out of the way, and reduces the feeling of fatigue, which is why my first responders are living on a steady stream of caffeine throughout the day, right? So if we have carbs, it actually helps your body push harder. And the thing with the applesauce pouches is if you do one applesauce pouch 15 minutes before your workout, it's not going to bother your stomach. I haven't ran into anybody yet who's told me that it bothers their stomach. Most of my bigger guys, you're going to need 2 of these, right? And then if you are doing longer workouts or you're doing an hour workout and then you're going to train the rookie on some sort of drill, then you may need another applesauce pouch at about 45 minutes in to keep that workout going. Other things, these are all pre-workout snacks. Good. So these are all pre-workout options. These are carb-based snacks. If you are instructing at the academy, I'm going to send Ryan my slides so that you have the pictures. If you're instructing at the academy, what I want to see is this is the stuff recruits need to be having between every single evolution. Every evolution. You will see their energy drink usage go down substantially. You will see injuries likely go down substantially. So we do applesauce pouches, Fig bars, Cliff bars. If you haven't been to Costco, you can actually make an order of Fig bars, Cliff bars, and they will deliver to your house in 2 days. Because a lot of people either they get off too early, they can't get it to Costco until later in the day, and then it's a zoo and you buy everything that's on the end caps. I'm not allowed to go to Costco in person anymore for a reason. So these are all options that you can have before the workout. That's it bars, dried fruit, honey stingers are a good option. This is what a lot of my endurance athletes use. Pretzels, Uncrustables, I don't hate, right? I know the internet hates Uncrustables, but here's the thing. If you are eating an Uncrustable before your workout to fuel your workout, they're actually a perfect pre-workout snack. I don't know if anybody saw the memes before the Super Bowl going around of the amount of Uncrustables that the NFL eats. It's like 300 a day for the Denver Broncos. It's actually quite impressive. Now, I always have that one guy who's eaten 7 Uncrustables at the EMS room like a little squirrel because that's the targeted. Everybody usually looks at that person. Where this is what they are surviving off of is Uncrustables and Uncrustables alone. That is not what I am encouraging. I am not encouraging 7 Uncrustables a day when you work at a slower station, you finally actually got to the EMS room and you didn't bring lunch. That's not what I'm implying. we are using this as pre-workout. Now, for my health nuts who are like, that's not, I don't want to eat Uncrustables. There are healthy Uncrustables. Cram is a brand. It's whole grain. They use like jam from the Swedish Alps. I don't know. If that's you and you have the budget, go for it. But especially like from the recruit standpoint, this is stuff that I recommend. All of this is non-perishable. So another rung on my ladder that I was talking about earlier is I want to make sure that you have a go bag stocked within the first 2 sessions of working with me. Because if you get stuck out on calls, you now have snacks. If you are sitting at a gas leak for 3 hours, starving to death, what happens when you get back to the station? You eat everything, right? So if we have some of these snacks, yes, it's adding calories into the day, but it's actually taking calories away from you overeating when you get back to the station, or you stopping at McDonald's because that's where the driver wants to go because he's starving. You can actually just throw snacks at the driver and hope that he doesn't take you there. Maybe he won't. It depends on the driver. I know what we're dealing with. So these are all good pre-workout. If you're at the academy, if you're drilling all day, if you're at a tech rescue drill, if you are doing movement for long periods of long time, or for a long period of time, over an hour, we do one of these or 2 of these every hour on the hour. And what this will do is significantly increase your energy levels, which reduces caffeine intake if that's what we're trying to do. And it also prevents you from overeating when you get back to the station and you finally actually get to eat. Okay. So from a workout standpoint, what does this mean in numbers? We recommend as dietitians, sports dietitians, 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour to keep your energy levels high. 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. 2 applesauce pouches, Big Bar, Cliff Bar, Fruit Cup, Uncrustable. All of these things meet that number. And I've had a lot of recruits. I had a volunteer go through fire school, and she was a little older, 40, which anybody who's 40 who ever thought about going through fire school or the academy knows what I mean by this. It's brutal, right? It's already hard enough when you're 20, but it's hard, when you've already got some injuries and joint pain and that kind of thing. And she was having trouble having any energy when she got home from fire school, right? She had to study. She had other things she needed to get done. She had kids. And so what we did was we added an applesauce pouch or a smoothie pouch between every single evolution, whether she wanted it or not. Because when you have those long drilling days, what a lot of people do is they get so excited that they're drilling or so nervous, especially newer recruits, right? They don't want to get yelled at for packing the hose wrong. They forget that they need to eat. They're in that fight or flight mode, not rest and digest. So you're not hungry. So if you're not hungry, what do? Not eat. And then you end up feeling crappy when you get home from work. If we have an applesauce pouch or a smoothie pouch between every single evolution, every hour on the hour, you end up having energy when you get home. So this makes a big difference. So again, pre-workout, intra-workout, we focus on carbs, okay? Carbs. Post-workout, we focus on protein. So we're looking at 20 to 35 grams of protein with carbs after our workout. Anybody used to do bodybuilding and heard of the anabolic window? And yeah, I know you have. Right. Whereas if you don't take a protein shake to the face as soon as you finish your tricep extensions at the end of your workout, all of your gains will just diminish and explode. Yeah. I used to go to the Gold's Gym in Glen Burnie too. Right. So actually what we found is that anabolic window is actually 4 hours. So most people get a meal within 4 hours for that recovery purposes to help their muscles recover and rebuild appropriately. So what we do is try and get that in. But the problem with my first responders is sometimes you get on a call and it's been 3 to 4 hours. So we want to pack some options that are quick and easy. So the protein-based options, and not all of these are perfect. Are they the highest amount of protein? Do these hit the 30 grams? Not always, but they can get pretty close. So most of you guys know the protein bars, the protein shakes, smoothie pouches, right? Once I get people on the sauce, the applesauce, then we graduate you to the smoothie pouches. Okay, right? Everybody's going to try the applesauce pouches after this, and they're going to call me and be like, you are onto something. Other things, yogurt pouches. Okay, you give these to your kids. The baby food aisle is amazing for first responders, right? Not just because sometimes y'all act like children, at least the tech rescue guys in Fairfax do, but because they're portable, they're quick, they're convenient. Jerky is a good option, tuna packets, chicken packets. Another great option, oopsies, I'm pressing buttons, is chickpeas or dried bean snacks. I know these sound weird, but they're on Amazon. 20 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber. Okay, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone for me, right? So these are all portable things that we can put in a go bag. So what I recommend, you go to Amazon, you buy a like cooler bag, a lunch bag that has a clip on it, you clip it to whatever rig you're assigned to, and you have your snacks on the go. I also recommend putting in like a 16-ounce water bottle, or ideally like one of the stainless steel water bottles, Stanley, if you have a bougie spouse or you are the bougie spouse like me. Those will at least keep your water cool, because we're also getting to the hot season. Now, one other thing I want to mention with this that a lot of my first responders think. Has any of you ever seen on the internet, TikTok, the like really jacked bros saying, if you eat more than 60 grams of protein in a meal, you're not going to absorb it? Anybody? Just me? Okay. Boo. So if you couldn't absorb it, you would know. Okay. The good example of this is, has anybody ever seen the sugar-free gummy bear reviews on Amazon? I had at least 2 clients in the past year eat a bag of sugar-free gummy bears that was this big, that had 3 servings of sugar-free gummy bears in it. And sugar alcohols is what gives the sweetener without the calories to sugar-free gummy bears. And if you have too much of it, your bowel movements move a little faster. So I had no less than 2 people last year eat the full bag of that sugar-free gummy bears, get up, feel like they have to go to the bathroom, and crap their pants. And I will not release names because it was an embarrassing situation, right? So that's what happens when something runs right through you. You're going to know, okay? So eating more protein, 60 grams of a protein in a Chipotle burrito bowl, maybe 30 of that is going to be used to maximize muscle protein synthesis, aka gains. But the rest of it's going to be used for other processes. Your body uses protein for other stuff other than gains, which to the bodybuilders is tragic to hear. But hair, skin, nails, enzymes, hormones, those things. So that's why it's not too big of a deal with protein. So supplements, and then I'll get into hydration and caffeine. So there are 2 supplements that I don't hate for my first responders, okay? And these are 2, the reason I picked these 2 as the 2 options is 1, they're low risk. So typically if you get a third-party tested option, there's not a whole lot of side effects, and there's a lot of benefit for the first responder community. And the benefits I look for is improved sleep and less muscle soreness, right? So this is also good for recruits. Those are their 2 big issues as well. So tart cherry juice. Anybody ever heard or tried tart cherry juice? Yeah. So tart cherry juice is actually not a supplement. It's in the grocery store. You go to the cranberry juice aisle, there's a sea of cranberry juices, and then 1 little thing of tart cherry juice. Okay, and it's gonna be like $7 for a thing of juice, and you're gonna be like, "Is this outrageous?" But relative to supplements, it's very affordable. And tart cherry juice, 8 to 12 ounces before bed, can improve melatonin secretion, which leads to better rapid eye movement sleep, which means you get better quality sleep in less time, right? One of the biggest challenges for first responders is having enough time for sleep. So the next best option is to improve the quality when possible. Am I saying this is going to fix the low-key anxiety you have when sleeping at a station? No, but this won't make you drowsy. It'll just, once you start to fall asleep, help with the quality of sleep. The other option is concentrate. So tart cherry juice concentrate you can get on Amazon. It's expensive. It's like $28 for 32 ounces. But when you break that out, it's going to last over a month. And then you just take a little tart cherry juice shot before you go to bed, and then you realize you're old and this is where you are in life. So that can help with sleep quality. If you add another dose in the morning, there is benefit for muscle soreness. So if you're starting a new workout routine, I like to have my recruits do this first thing in the morning. They add it into a berry smoothie. Just add a shot of concentrate into the berry smoothie. And that can help with muscle soreness. And the reason for that is this is very high in antioxidants and polyphenol, right? So this can help with soreness, inflammation, and then, like I said, cancer risk reduction is probably also another factor there. So the other thing with this is please do not go on Amazon and buy a crate of tart cherry juice and then try it and hate it. Because I had one firefighter do that when she saw this and then yell at me because she bought a crate of it and tried it and just hated it. Don't do that, right? Try it first, see if you like it, and move on from there. The other one, creatine monohydrate. Who's heard of creatine? Right? Okay, most people have heard of creatine, right? So a lot of bodybuilders, powerlifters, former athletes will have probably heard of creatine monohydrate because of its benefits for strength and power. If you were around in the early 2000s, 90s, a lot of people said that you should not take creatine because it was going to cause dehydration or seizures or rhabdo. And it turns out when you look at those case studies, they forgot to mention that those people were also on anabolic steroids. So that was what was causing the rhabdo. Okay. So creatine monohydrate has a lot of research behind it for safety and efficacy. So it works well, and it's also safe. We want to do 5 grams per day, every day, for forever, at whatever time of day works for you, wherever you're going to remember it. Capsule, powder, gummies are okay, but they're not the best. Sometimes it settles and doesn't always have the quantity needed. The other thing I forgot to mention, an interesting benefit for first responders, is that it may help with mental fatigue with sleep deprivation. Mental fatigue with sleep deprivation. That's good, right? Yeah, that's your job. So what we're starting to find is not only does creatine have a benefit in the muscle in improving strength and power, body composition related to that, but it also helps in the brain as a fuel source in the brain for mitigating stress related to sleep deprivation. So every day, for forever, 5 grams, powder capsule, whatever. Now, my bros may be like, well, Megan, you forgot to mention the loading dose. So a loading dose is so I forgot to mention that 3 to 5 grams, if you've never taken it before, it will take 3 to 4 weeks before you see the benefit, which firefighters hate that. Where's the instant gratification? Not there. So they want the instant gratification. They do a loading phase. But a loading phase is 25 grams a day for 7 days to see the benefit. But you can't take 25 grams at a time or your stomach will feel like it's going to explode. It's a sandy substance. It doesn't really feel too great sometimes for people, nausea, vomiting, that kind of stuff. You have to spread that 5 times throughout the day. 5 grams, 5 times for 7 days. Most people are not remembering it to take once a day, so we keep it at 1 time a day. If you do want to do that loading dose, you just phase into the maintenance of 5 grams per day for forever. Now, for recruits, I don't know if you guys get them prior to, because you start with suppression, but whether it's recruits or you're in the field, you're adjuncting, we have a specific study from 2023 that found that firefighters who had a 25-gram whey protein isolate shake with 25 grams of pro-carb powder, which is a long-chain carbohydrate powder. You can find that on the internet pretty easily. And then 5 grams of creatine monohydrate post-workout for 3 weeks performed better on an occupational battery. They went through it faster. They had better strength and power for ladder raise, dummy drag, extension. There was a significant difference in performance. So we do see improvement in firefighters. Any questions on creatine? Yes. Yes, it will raise your creatinine levels marginally, but it shouldn't be a problem. The problem is you go to a doctor who is not updated on creatine and they have a meltdown. So unless you have pre-existing kidney issues, we're not too worried about the small bump in creatinine levels. Other questions? Yeah. I don't think it's that much. Usually that's like over 300 milligrams, which you guys may have no problem doing. Yeah, so maybe space it out. Yeah, so then don't take it with which if you put it in pre-work, that's the other question I get. Well, my pre-workout has creatine in it. Do you know it has 5 grams in it? Because a lot of times they just add a little creatine into it and say, we have creatine in this, but it doesn't tell you how much creatine in it, so it doesn't have the effective dose. So they're basically, that's why I don't love a lot of pre-workout powders, is they say it has a bunch of stuff in it. They throw beta-alanine in there, so you get your face off and you're like, it's working. And, is it working? Anyway, that's my rant. Oh, so speaking of caffeine, this is where everybody starts to hate me, right? Caffeine. I would be a really bad first responder dietitian if I came out here and told you guys that you should never have caffeine ever, right? Because what would you do? You'd set me on fire and not put me out. So in order to maintain my livelihood, we go with the FFA recommendation of 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is the equivalent of 30 to 40 ounces of coffee total in a day. I think that's reasonable. The first responders running 5 calls after midnight tell me that's rookie numbers, right? So, usually it's not coffee. I mean, there's always that one captain who's just like on a steady drip of coffee throughout the day. But it's usually not coffee doing it. It's the pre-workouts and the energy drinks. And I also know better, like, listen, energy drinks are not good for you. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that they are a health food. I don't care that Celsius has a fruit on the front. It doesn't mean that it's healthy. Okay. So energy drinks, because of the additives, there are some studies suggesting that they are considered neurotoxic and can increase the risk for Parkinson's disease and endocrine disorders like diabetes and migraines and seizures. So with taking one a day, particularly ones with taurine, gluconolactone, and guanolactone, they can increase the risk for those conditions. They also increase the risk for insomnia and anxiety, which a lot of firefighters like to overlook that. They're like, I'm not anxious because of the 18 energy drinks I'm doing a day. It's just a condition that I cannot control. So just keep that in mind there too. Other thing, acid reflux. Almost all of my firefighters over the age of 28 have some level of acid reflux. Caffeine reduces the pressure of the lower esophageal sphincter, which can cause splashing up into the esophagus, causing heartburn or acid reflux. So caffeine, especially with no food in your stomach, can impact acid reflux. Now, when it comes to energy drinks, I'm also not dumb and say never do an energy drink again, because you guys are going to ignore me, much like my husband. So if you're going to ignore me like my husband ignores me, the next best thing is to do a better bad decision. And I have now gotten to the sad point in my career where I'm recommending Monsters and Red Bulls because they're half the caffeine of Bang, Celsius Heat, and Rain, right? So why do I say that? Because I have had first responders doing 900, 1200, 2600 milligrams of caffeine in a day. And we sent that one to rehab. But it adds up really quickly, right? You pick up the extra overtime. You have a little baby at home. You're adding these things in because your tolerance starts to build. And the other thing you don't realize is that if you're doing caffeine within 4 to 5 hours of bedtime, it's not going to prevent you from falling asleep. It's going to mess with your sleep cycle. You're going to spend less time in rapid eye movement sleep, less time in deep sleep, and you're going to reach for more of what the next day? Bing, right? It becomes a cycle. So what we want to do, if I get someone who's on 3-4 bangs a day and I get them to 3 to 4 monsters a day, I've effectively cut their caffeine in half without taking the behavior of the energy drink, of drinking that energy drink. Ideally, we'd go for something like the Amino Energies or the Jocko Goes, but I know these aren't exactly like accessible at 7-Eleven sometimes, or Wawa's or whatever. So just keep in mind on the caffeine. 400 milligrams, it's totally possible to have more energy. I have actually gotten a lot of my first responders from 800, 900 milligrams of caffeine a day to get them to 400. They actually have more energy, because what ends up happening is we're spacing that caffeine out better. They're sleeping better. They're getting more energy. They think I did witchcraft, and I let them believe it. Okay. Last few things, and I'm pretty much out of time, unless you want me to stop now. Keep going. Sorry, I got excited. So last thing is hydration. So we're getting into that season where it's that weird time of year where we don't know if we're hot or if we're cold, and we're somewhere in between. But really, when it comes to hydration, here's what I want to see. For women, 92 ounces of fluid a day. For men, 125. And before you think you're going to float away, all sources of fluid count, including coffee. Oh, yeah. Okay. Everybody likes me again, right? So we find, or research suggests, that especially in people who are caffeine habituated, aka most of my first responders who drink coffee every day for forever, that caffeine does not impact necessarily the total body hydration over the course of the day. You just pee more in the first hour, particularly when the caffeine is under 300 milligrams. Okay. So the other thing, seltzer, sparkling water, soda, tea, juice, all those liquid count. Technically, energy drinks count, as much as I hate to admit that. But it's easier to get to this number than you think. So am I saying that you should just drink 17 energy drinks a day to hit this number? No. Okay, we've got to be really clear about that. But it all counts. Where it starts to go downhill for my first responders is the fire ground. So firefighters, what a lot of y'all don't realize is that you can lose 40 ounces of sweat in 30 minutes of fire ground related activity. That is a Stanley Cup, okay? Stanley Cup of sweat in 30 minutes. And the problem with that is that that's just not just water, it's also sodium, electrolytes. And just so you know, people who are on a low sodium diet need 2,000 milligrams of sodium in a day. You're sweating out, for a lot of people, what they need in a day in 30 minutes. So if you just replace with water, I've seen water challenges in the academy and someone ends up hyponatremic, right? And hyponatremia is where you dilute your body sodium so much that it actually can kill you. So usually we see that either in water challenges or like marathons where people aren't replacing sodium. Now, which products should we use? A lot of my first responders are going for fire salt, element, and those types of products because they're either promoted as healthy, they don't have sugar, so they're not going to cause diabetes. Y'all aren't getting diabetes from hydration products, okay? We're getting diabetes from other things, right? It's from when you're sitting in the day room and you're just eating stuff all day and you're not doing a whole lot of movement. That's where we see diabetes, and there's also a genetic component to that, so I don't want to dysregulate that. But the products we want to go for are oral rehydration solutions. And oral rehydration solutions were developed for the cholera epidemic to rehydrate as well as IV fluids for mild to moderate dehydration. Rehydrate as well as IV fluids for moderate to mild dehydration. Why is that important? Starting a line on someone at the very minimum of paperwork, right? So if we can use something like drip drop liquid IV or fluid tactical ORS, the sugar actually helps get you give an extra entry point on the cell, which means you see better speed. They rehydrate 2 to 3 times as fast as products without sugar because you gain access to the sodium glucose co-transporter, which needs glucose to bind, then it binds to sodium and water follows. So oral rehydration solutions, this is what you should be packing in your go bags. Everybody should have one of these in a go bag with a 16-ounce water bottle because you do not want to dilute these. If you want speed, it needs to be in the correct concentrations. Okay, so we're not diluting a drip drop in 32 ounces of water. We're actually doing it in 16 if we need to rehydrate. So this is something we do when we start a drill day or we start a really hot day of community events or a water rescue or whatever. And then halfway through, we might need another one. And then if it's been a really hot, sweaty, active day, we might do another one before we leave. Recruits may need up to 5 of these for really intense burn days or skills days, depending on how hot it is, right? But what we don't do these sitting in the day room where we have nothing else to do, right? Now, I don't want to say that any of these electrolyte products you should skip, but if there was one you were going to buy, ORS product or a rehydration solution, okay? If you have element, you have fire salt, you really like it, it works for you perfectly fine. But when departments are asking me what the best one is to buy, ORS. And like I said, I'll send you all these slides if you would like to see these. There are different uses. So for my medics who don't do a whole lot of, big intense movements and you're sweating through a uniform during the day, maybe you go for a Propel or Gatorade Zero, that kind of thing. But electrolytes can make a big difference. So sugar and sodium, they are performance enhancing in high intensity scenarios when you need fuel fast. When you're sitting around in a day room, they can increase risk for disease down the line, right? So a lot of people ask me, what's the healthiest electrolyte product? What's the healthy options we can keep on a rehab unit or a canteen? And the reality is healthy is not the right term because what's healthy, in your day-to-day may not be performance enhancing in your high intensity scenario drills, that kind of stuff. Do you want me to go through this or skip it? Okay, I'll send it to you. All right. So free recipe book is available at rescuerd.com. This is $8 to $10 a head. When I made it was $5 to $6 a head. Just a 6, 10, and 14, half a pound of protein per person. Firefighter portions, AKA, you take a Pinterest family of 4, and that's 2 firefighters from a portion standpoint, in my opinion, just so that you have leftovers if you need it for midnight or you've had an active day. Do I have any questions? Sorry, I yapped a little bit too long. All right. Yay.
Yeah. All right. Break again. We covered our nutrition. We've covered some of our financial planning. We're going to talk about some future planning now and wills. How many of you have done a will? How many of you know that you need to do a will and haven't gotten around to it yet? Okay. So there's like a happy balance there. Christian Miele from Pinder Plotkin is here. They do our Wills for Heroes, fantastic organization that supports us in the state. So we'll go ahead and work on the AV to get their information up behind us and turn it over here and you can continue the presentation.
Thank you, Joe. Morning, everybody. As Joe said, I'm Christian Miele, the estate planning partner of the Pinder Plotkin legal team located in Cali. But as he mentioned, we're very invested in our first responder community. Most of us have family members who serve or have served in the fire service, including my grandfather, volunteer fire chief, my uncles, cousins. So I come from a family of firefighters, and we are committed. Is this audio good? Okay. We're always committed to giving back to wealth. So as Joe mentioned, we have a Wills for Cornrows program where we do free wills for first responders in the state of Maryland. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about sort of the 101 of estate planning, to demystify what a will is versus an advance directive versus a power of attorney. Those are the sort of the trio of documents that comprise what would be known as a traditional estate plan. There are trusts and other sort of complex instruments that you can use, but for the most part today, we're going to focus our conversation on just a traditional estate plan. So the last will and testament is the cornerstone document. It's good to see that some of you already have your will and testament in place. I think it's particularly vital that all first responders have wills, just because of the line of work that you're engaged in, the risk that you assume every day in serving the public and giving back and putting yourselves at risk. I think it's incredibly important, not just for you, but mostly for your families and those who come after us, to make sure that we're planning for them. So the last will and testament really is a document that memorializes where your money goes and who you trust to make sure that your wishes get effectuated. So what happens when you die? Where does the money go? Who takes care of your loved ones? And then it allows you to do a number of other things too. So first and foremost, you have to think about all of your assets in two major buckets. You have to think about them in probate and non-probate assets. So a probate asset, the word probate just means it goes through the register of wills in the court system once you pass away, and the will governs the distribution of your probate assets. A non-probate asset, simply put, is anything that you have sort of a contract with. It could be a life insurance policy. So obviously who your beneficiary is on your life insurance policy, they're going to collect what they're entitled to when you pass away automatically by function of that contract you have with MetLife or whatever insurance provider that you choose. And so it doesn't go through the will, so it's a non-probate asset. Same thing would be for a pension or a 401k or a Roth IRA. Those are all non-probate assets. It has nothing to do with your will. You're going to name beneficiaries and contingent beneficiaries for those accounts. So really what our focus on is, what are all the probate assets? And that's basically everything else. So that's why in a will, you're going to see the term residuary estate. Residuary from the word residue, meaning kind of leftover, everything left over. So that's the house, any vehicles, motorcycles, your wardrobe, your tools, any tangible personal possessions that you own comprise your estate, your residuary estate. And so the will really governs the distribution of those assets. And that's what's important for our conversation today. The will is only of legal effect when you pass away. It's of no use. Doesn't kick in while we're alive, unlike the power of attorney, which I'll get into later. But what the primary function of the will is to do these things. First, before you distribute your assets in your will, you're allowed to make what's called specific requests. So I assume everyone here is a firefighter. So I'm sure your badge, your helmet, things that have some personal emotional connection, your wedding rings or some family heirloom. These are all things that you may not necessarily, let's say you're giving everything to your spouse and your spouse predeceases you, everything goes equally to your kids, which is what most people do in their will. But let's say you have a comrade in service who it's really important that they get your helmet, your badge, or that you donate it to the fire hall to put on display. I know there was a display, and by the way, beautiful facility here, by the way, very impressed with it. And you have like a case downstairs where you have some items and heirlooms on display. You might want to bequeath a certain item to a specific person, and that doesn't necessarily get your money. So you can do that in the will. Basically, what you would do is you would just say, I hereby give, devise, and bequeath my helmet or this ring or whatever the item may be to this person. Doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily get money from your will, from your financial assets, but it means that you can give them specific items. So the will allows you to do that. And you do that, we call that taking it off the top. That item gets distributed before the estate gets distributed according to your financial plan. And so what that means is the value of that ring is not included in the distribution. It gets meted out first, if that makes sense. So a lot of people, again, they do this with wedding rings and family heirlooms like American flags that were draped over the casket of a loved one, things like that. They want to go usually to the firstborn child or something like that. That happens first. Then what you have to do is figure out how you're going to distribute the rest of your probate assets. And like I said, there are a couple ways to do this, but typically speaking, most folks who are married leave 100% of their estate to their surviving spouse. And then if their surviving spouse predeceases them, they have a provision in their will that then the contingent beneficiaries then get the money that would have gone to their spouse had their spouse survived them. So in a lot of cases, if a client has 3 children and they don't have kids of their own, it's very popular to say, all right, if my wife or husband predeceases, the 3 kids who don't have kids of their own are all going to get, we're going to do a survivorship clause, and the 100% of the estate is going to go equally to the surviving of those 3 children. So that means, let's say, child A also passed away, before you, then there's only 2 surviving children. They're going to get 50-50 versus a third, if that makes sense. So that's one popular way to distribute your estate. Another one would be if you have children who have kids of their own, or you're in a blended family or something like that, then typically we do the silo approach, which is, I have child A, B, and C, and they all have kids of their own. So if my spouse and my wife predeceased me and I have 3 kids, I want to make sure that my kids each get a third of my estate. And then if one of my children were to predecease me, I want to make sure that my grandchildren, their kids are provided for versus that money going laterally across to the surviving siblings, my other children. So that's called a silo approach, because you're basically saying, I'm going to split up my estate, 3 different buckets, bucket A, B, C for child A, B, and C. And then if A dies, the grandchildren, the children of A get their third, if that makes sense. So the thing about these documents is highly customizable. You don't have to do it that way at all. You don't have to provide for your kids at all. A lot of people disinherit some of their children if they have substance use issues, gambling problems, and they don't necessarily believe it would be a good idea to give $100,000 to a 28-year-old who is struggling with addiction, right? So these documents are highly customizable in the sense you can give your money to whoever you choose. However, the one thing you can't do is disinherit a spouse. There are legal provisions in state law. When you're married, there's certain marital property that automatically goes to them, and the will cannot circumvent that. But by and large, after your spouse, kids are taken care of, you can really give your money to whoever you choose. Another important thing that you do in the will is you name your executor. In the state of Maryland, the executor is known as the personal representative. You'll see the term PR for short used. That's the person that you're entrusting to actually work with the Register of Wills and administer your estate according to your wishes. That's everything from the disposition of your body after you pass away. So if you're donating your body to science, making sure that all the paperwork is filled out with the State Anatomy Board, or if you want a religious service, if you want to play Stairway to Heaven at your wake, your personal representative will make sure that the funeral director knows that that's what you want. And then, of course, if there are any other, if you don't provide in your will, of course you can. If you have pre-arrangements made, I want to be buried at this cemetery, or I want to be cremated, or I want my body interred at this mausoleum, you can actually, and it's helpful to put that information in the will, especially if you're very paid for it. Right? It takes the burden off of your family. But if you don't have those pre-arrangements, you can allow your personal representative to actually make those decisions on your behalf. So you're basically trusting that person. I trust Joe. Joe knows when I go, I want to be cremated, and then I want my kids to get my ashes in 3 different rooms, or whatever the case may be. Or if I want a religious service in accordance with my faith at my wake, all that can go in the will. Again, if it's not, you can empower through the will. If you don't want to think about those morbid life decisions, you can empower your personal representative to make those decisions on your behalf. Because again, they understand your belief system and your values and things of that nature. And then, of course, with the will, you can name any number of alternate PRs. So it's always good to say, if most people choose their spouse, but they say, hey, if my spouse dies before me, now I don't have my executor named. They'll name usually 1, 2, 3 children, or an attorney who's in the family may be entrusted with that responsibility. So typically when you pass away and the estate's open with a death certificate at your county's Register of Wills, typically it's about a 6-month process. And that gives the opportunity for any creditors or folks that you owe money to step forward and say, hey, there's that Medicaid bill that needs to be paid because, grandma racked up a big bill when she was sick and she was in the hospital. So, a lot of times bills do need to be paid, and the personal representative sees to it that that happens before the distribution of any remaining assets to the family pursuant to the will. So, in a nutshell, that's the will. Again, it's the cornerstone document because it controls the flow of your money in your residuary estate. The next document, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, is the Advanced Medical Directive. The Advanced Medical Directive is a document whereby while you are competent and have full mental capacity, you're deciding how you want to be treated from a medical perspective in advance versus, waiting too long and then you have some sort of temporary or permanent incapacity. You can no longer speak for yourself. And now doctors may or may not be following your true wishes. And so the Advanced Directive, much the same way that you've got a PR or any number of alternate PRs in your will, you'll name a healthcare agent and any number of alternate healthcare agents. If you have a doctor or a nurse in the family, that's always a good choice because they understand the medical jargon, things of that nature. But the Advanced Directive also will clarify, importantly, how you wish to be treated in an end stage condition. So it'll ask a number of hypothetical prompts, and then you'll respond how you wish your body to be treated. Because you can no longer speak for yourself, you're speaking through the document. You made the document while you were mentally competent. So that's why it's good to not wait. Because a lot of times I've had even family members back in New Jersey, they'll call me up, hey, Christian, my stepdad isn't doing so well. He doesn't have his affairs in order. And he's got a lot of money and it's going to go to my mom who had schizophrenia. She's not going to be able to control it. There's nothing I can do at that point because she's in the best position to get those assets. He wasn't able to make any decisions like that. So that's why it's so important to do this while you still have your mental capacity. So the three main things that you decide in your Advanced Directive is, if you're in a persistent vegetative state, there's no reasonable expectation you're going to recover according to the doctors. Or if you have some terminal illness and death is imminent. Basically, for the most part, if you go on the Attorney General's website, it'll tell you the three main options. One is basically just keep me comfortable, allow me to pass naturally, and I don't want feeding tubes. I don't want to be intubated. I don't want to be on a respirator. Okay, that's sort of one decision that a lot of people make. Others is they don't want to be intubated, but they want to be receive nutrition through tubes or other medical means. And then there's a third class of people that basically say, just let me go. I don't want to be no feeding tubes, no intubation, just allow me to pass naturally. You'll also decide in your Advanced Directive if you want things like morphine, which could have the effect of shortening your remaining life. So you do have to consent to taking morphine for pain relief. Some people don't want morphine or they're allergic to it. So that also goes in the Advanced Directive. And then the final document is the power of attorney. This, I would say, is the one you want to be the most careful with because of the great risks that you incur just for the fact that you have it. So there are two main types of powers of attorney in the state of Maryland. Your statutory financial power of attorney basically allows you, and this is, like I said, it's the exact opposite of the will. The will only kicks in when you die. The power of attorney is of no effect when you die. It's only of effect while you're still alive. And what you're doing with the power of attorney is you're giving somebody enormous power, legally speaking, to act as you can in all financial or legal matters. So the classic case of why this is a useful document, I'll get into the risks in just a second, would be like my grandmother's case. When my grandmother was 89 years old, she had some early onset signs that she was going to have dementia. My aunt down in Florida was made her power of attorney because at 89, my grandmother still lived alone. My aunt and uncle in Florida were working full time. Their kids were grown and out of the house. They couldn't take care of her 24/7. She clearly needed to move into a long-term assisted living facility. And so having in-home care was way too expensive. Family didn't have a ton of money. So they basically made my aunt power of attorney, or I should say my grandmother made my aunt power of attorney. And she was able to work with the realtors, the closing agents, and sell my grandmother's house to get the money from that asset, then pay for her long-term assisted living care. My grandmother at 89 was no way, shape, or form had the ability to list the house, deal with realtors, have open houses, have the house looking good to sell it for top value. That just wasn't going to happen. So by giving my aunt that ability, she was able to handle all that stuff. And she was able to go to the bank with that statutory form and say, Joan has given me the ability to do this. I'm signing on the dotted line. I'm selling her house. Then I'm going to take this money. I'm going to go to the assisted living home. I'm going to get her all checked in and registered there, get her a room. Everything's taken care of. Her meals, her wraparound care, all of those things. It'd be very, very useful. Unfortunately, a lot of people wait till it's too late. Now you have somebody that has Alzheimer's and they're confused. They've got all this money, but it's probably not a good idea for them to do banking. They probably don't understand and appreciate. These are the folks that you hear about on the news who they get a call from somebody from some foreign country that just takes them for everything. Takes all their money. It's called elder abuse, it's known as, and they're robbed of it. They say, hey, give to this good cause, and they get their bank account number and money's gone. So that's why it's really important to have these conversations among your own families and with your loved ones to do it while you can. Now, there are risks involved because you're basically giving somebody the ability to buy and sell stock, buy and sell real estate, file your taxes. So there are a couple of classic examples, and they do have to be, I should say, a fiduciary. They have to have your best interest in mind. But there are circumstances where they may think that they have your best interest in mind, and maybe you disagree. So let's say that Joe had a one-of-one Corvette. The only one that exists is worth $2 million. And his wife hates that Corvette, thinks it's dangerous, doesn't like he's racking up all these speeding tickets. So she's the power of attorney, and she sells the Corvette for $200,000, right? Doesn't understand the value of it or whatever. He can't get the Corvette back because it was a legal sale. She was power of attorney. Now, he may have a remedy at law and say, you owe me $1.8 million because that was the fair market value in Kelly's Blue Book for this rare Corvette, but it was a legal sale. So there are those risks. And I'm sure some of you saw Rocky V when Paulie was Rocky's power of attorney. And he makes some dumb decisions and they go penniless. So again, the power of attorney, and that's all things that you want to talk to an attorney about. That's why estate planning attorneys exist, to make sure that they're looking out for your best interests. Now, a common question I get is, do two spouses go to an attorney together and get their wills done like jointly? And the answer is no. Every individual's estate plan is individualized. You could get consent from a husband and wife. You can represent both of them, but it's got to be consent, because husbands and wives may have different ideas about where they want money to go. And the surviving of the two spouses is always going to have the ultimate say where the money goes, especially if you're giving your spouse 100%, or by function of law, they're getting the lion's share of your estate. So it's a very common question, but yes, we do husband-wife wills all the time. And so what we do at Pinder Plotkin is the traditional estate plan. If you are, I just did one for a firefighter and his wife in Baltimore County. The will is completely free for the firefighter. And then the spouse, we do charge for that service. But if you're a single firefighter, your will is free. And if you want the power of attorney, the advanced medical directive, it's a small cost. But that's just kind of one way that we like to give back. So happy to take any general questions. But that basically are the three documents, how they sort of work together in concert to protect your money, protect your loved ones, and then make sure that your body is treated the way you wish it to be treated if you can't speak for yourself. And then, of course, once you pass away, that your going out ceremony, you want to have a ceremony. Some people don't want anything at all. But whether you do a celebration of life or a traditional wake and funeral service, those all go according to your wishes. Again, these documents are highly customizable, and you can change them an unlimited number of times. If you did your will and have it executed, 2 weeks later, if you change your mind, or a year goes by and circumstances have changed, you want to move some money around, that person should get the percentage that they were originally getting, you can make all of those changes. All these documents work for you, and basically that's it. So wanted to thank you all again. Don't know if you have something to write with, I can give you my contact information if you have any questions, or if you want to proceed and get your free will done through our firm. My first name is Christian, and my last name is Miele, and that's called it Miele. And the email address, well, I'll give you my cell phone first. You can text if that works best for you, and just say, hey, I met you at 1563, and you gave a talk about estate planning forward. So cell phone is 443-900-1804. And again, first name is Christian, last name is Miele, M-I-E-L-E, and the email is the letter C, then my last name, M-I-E-L-E, at the name of the firm, which is pinderplotkin.com. So it's PINDERPLOTKIN.com. I know that was a lot. Does anybody need me to say one more time?
Still, I've hired in Maryland, or I think that it.
Yes, just in Maryland, because we're only licensed Maryland attorneys. You have to live in Maryland. Yeah, if you're a Maryland resident, we can help you out. And, please let your colleagues in the fire service know about the program. We've done, Jason normally does the Wheels for Heroes. I'm part-time with the firm, just full disclosure. So I've been in government. So I was in the House of Delegates and that I've been with MIM. So I'm sort of a partner in the emergency response service. So I'm doing government affairs for the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services. All first responders.
No longer, or
let me ask Jason. I'm not sure if law enforcement is included. I know for sure fire and EMS. Shoot me an email, and then I'll ask Jason. I don't want to speak for the CEO of the firm, but I'd be happy to ask him. He may very well say, sure, absolutely. So good question. Thank you.
email.
Sure. It's C-M as in Michael, I-E-L-E at PINDERPLOTKIN. Before wrapping up, Joe, I just want to personal note, just thank each and every one of you for everything that you all do. Our first responders are so important. Just from a guy who comes from a family of firefighters, just want to really, thank you guys for a blessing to our state and our community. So thank you so much for having me as well. Thanks.
Our body to recover physically and mentally. There's actually this phenomenon they call brainwashing, where you actually go to sleep, your brain shrinks a little bit, it gets more CNS fluid in there, and it literally kind of gets rid of that fog. So if you've ever been in lectures like this all day and you don't sleep too well, the next day you're just kind of like, you feel drained, it's because you still have this fog going on in your brain. So just as a demonstration of how we get those, or the importance of those 5 cycles, I'm going to need 2 volunteers. One person that probably worked last night and feels like they got their butts kicked and is probably not as sharp as they think they should be. Anybody want to volunteer? I was going to say I was going to pick on you anyway because I heard you were at 29. All right, so take the red deck. And then I got my no sleep, right?
Did you sleep last night?
Okay, now I need somebody that thinks they've got a really good night's sleep. You can go back to your seats. We will make you stand in front of everybody. Nobody got a good night's sleep? All right, we got another volunteer. All right, so go ahead and take the cards out of your deck. They should be pre-shuffled. So what you're going to do is you're going to sort these cards from ace to king in numerical order, suited. The only catch is you can only sort the cards while you're holding your breath. And you only get 5 chances to do it. So what it's supposed to simulate is at night, you have 1 night's sleep to process the information and organize the information that you have. And you only have 5 sleep cycles to do it. So holding your breath is your sleep cycle. So you can lay it out on the table. You can do whatever you need to. You can lay it on the floor. I don't care how you do it. But you can only sort the cards while you're holding your breath, and you only get 5 tries to do it. Let me know when you're done.
Yeah.
So while they're doing that, this is why sleep is so important. There's countless studies. The book that we got in the program, Why We Sleep, is full of awesome information. And there's so many studies that are saying like why we should be sleeping more before tests, why we should sleep after a long day of lecture. You're able to process this information. So we can give you all this information, but if your brain can't put it in the proper categories, it's useless, right? So at the end of the day, what will happen is when you do that brainwashing, if you have all this extra information floating around, it just basically gets wiped out. So In the fire department, we have all of our lectures, we have all this stuff, we have all this training, all these experiences, right? So from the peer support world, sleep is our first thing that we like to recommend because it's safe. We can tell you to sleep. So say you go out, you've had a busy shift, you had to do your target solutions, you had to catch up on all this extra training. Now you run a bad call. Then you come back and you have that coffee because you're sitting there stressed. You're doing all these things. You get a terrible night's sleep. You have that terrible call sitting there in your brain unprocessed. Now we go back and we have these bad coping mechanisms and we try to get rid of it when all we need is a good night's sleep to organize our thoughts and put these scary situations, learning experiences, all these things. We have to put them in their proper categories. So how are we doing with sorting the cards?
How many breaths you got left? You got 2 left? Okay. Okay. All right. And so a key thing about this, and we'll get into this later, is that lack of sleep affects both your cognitive ability to process and also your physical ability to process. So even down to the ability of your lungs to breathe in and out.
So the lack of physical recovery makes it difficult to do this, but it's also showing sorting the information in your mind.
You got one more?
All right, so that was 5 breaths? Okay, gotcha. So this is her last breath. That was it?
Yeah, you did.
You're able to get it?
All right, here's your next day.
So let's just say he was able to sort all the cards in those 5 breaths. We were able to sort all the cards in those 5 breaths, right? So we were able to take the information from a day, put them in nice, neat piles, organize them in our brain. We're ready for the next day. Let's say you didn't get to sort all these cards. You didn't get a good night's sleep. Now we're going to add a whole nother day's worth of information, and now you have to sort both decks again. So now we can start to see where not getting one good night of sleep impacts the next day. But now you have that sleep debt. You're behind one day. It's like interest on a loan. If you don't pay that loan, you get more interest and more interest and more interest. Soon enough, somebody's going to collect on that interest, and sooner than later, your body's going to collect on that lack of sleep. So this is why sleep is so important. So you don't actually have to sort the second deck.
No, you're good, Eric.
We were hoping that you didn't
You're very good.
get it
Thank you
complete
for
so that we could add in a second deck.
Grab the
Thank you for being a volunteer. All right, we're back up with AV. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. One last caveat there. That's also why on the peer support side, we recommend like after a large event that you're still trying to process, that you don't go and get blackout drunk and then fall asleep, because your body doesn't have the chance to process those files and store them through REM sleep the way that you would if you weren't drunk or blackout. Okay. So, all right. We didn't talk about exercise. Do you want to talk about exercise real quick? I said we didn't touch on exercise. Do you want to talk on exercise real quick?
So yeah, exercise is just another way to keep your body moving, right? We get the blood flow, it stimulates the brain, stimulates the body. And quite honestly, your body wants the stress. Your body needs to recover from stress. So who here has had a rough night at work, they came home and they rested all day and then they couldn't sleep at night, right? So you have to keep moving. You have to get back on that cycle. Exercise just helps with that.
All right, so we talked briefly about some impacts of poor sleep and what that can look like. So to keep going with that, emotional instability. So a lot of people who are chronically underslept are chronically also irritable. They're easily overwhelmed. They're not able to control their emotions as well as people who are sleeping better. They are also more likely to experience weight gain with leptin, cortisol, levels unable to be controlled, as well as people who are sleeping. And then low testosterone and high cortisol levels.
So this is kind of what Megan was talking about earlier. So think about this. Your body craves things that it needs to maintain homeostasis. So you said you got your butt kicked last night on the fire in 29's area.
How was that?
Okay.
He said, let me clarify.
Okay, fair enough. I stand corrected. So you were up late, but the point is you didn't get a good night's sleep. You're not fully recovered for today, so on and so forth. So your body knows it's tired. what's the one thing that we can put in our body that the body can use right here, right now to give us energy? Carbs, correct, right? So we give sugar to our diabetic patients to get them back up. Carbs, your body can use right now. It doesn't have to process it. So when you wake up this morning, when you left the firehouse, the first thing you're thinking of is, or you're not even thinking about it consciously. Your body's saying, give me carbs. So what are we going to turn to? We're going to turn to the bagels. We're going to turn to the donuts. We're going to turn to that stuff because the body knows, put it in there, I can put it to work, and now I feel awake. So what happens when we do that? Now we're starting to eat these high carb things. We're not getting the exercise to burn them off. That's where we start to see the weight gain. The leptin and cortisol, again, one tells you you're hungry. The other one tells you you're full. So, okay. Like I know that voice.
Right. That sounds familiar.
So when we go to sleep and we have that brainwashing and everything else, our hormones are able to reset and get to where we need to be. But when they're not, now our bodies, they're all dysregulated. So it's like, you're hungry, but I just ate. You're still hungry. You're still hungry. You're still hungry. Now it doesn't tell you you're full. So now we overeat. And it's a whole compound issue there.
So, and we say all this with the complete understanding that you still have to go to work and that you're still going to be exposing yourselves to chronic lack of sleep. But it's what can we do? Awareness is the first step, right? If I'm aware that all this is happening behind the scenes, I can be trying to take steps to offset it in the meantime, right? So if we know we have chronically firefighters have low testosterone and high cortisol levels because of their sleep schedule, it's a recognized shift work as a recognized possible carcinogen by WHO at this point. So if we know that, maybe we go and get a blood panel drawn. Maybe we try and adjust some of our levels. Maybe we work on sleep on the back end, right? Like to where we're setting up a schedule and going to bed at the same time on shift, knowing that we're probably going to get woken up, but still taking those steps, doing the same thing at home. What can we do to offset the risk that we're exposed to and to kind of try and right that ship? I think Megan touched on the fact that 40% of firefighters are diagnosed with sleep apnea, and of those, 80% don't even know they have it.
Right. Yeah. 40% of us have a sleep disorder, and the majority of those people they're not going to get tested. They're not even trying. You're just like, oh man, shift work sucks. I can't sleep at work, and I don't sleep at home, and I never get to recover. Like there's something going on, and that's kind of where I realized I needed to make a change because I was starting to be that emotionally unstable person. I was more, just irrational, things like that. And it just wasn't working for me. And I'm like, where do I start? Found this program, and it's like, oh, that's why I'm not recovering. I'm not doing this. So it's just a compound issue day over day.
Okay. And so we touched a little bit here on our overall lives, our personal lives. Here's where it impacts you at work, which was a main motivator, I think, in a lot of our, at least for me, I want to show up and be the best version of myself at work that I can, right? Because I want to be able to perform well. Well, if I'm not sleeping, then I'm not performing well. All right. So as you're underslept, your impulsivity increases. So you're more likely to make irrational decisions. Your time to physical exhaustion decreases by 30%. So you're only performing at 2/3 of the capacity that you ordinarily would if you were well slept. Your inspiration and exhalation ability decreases, and you have less muscular strength, which for me is important, right? Like if I'm going to show up to work, I want to be able to work. You got anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, we already did this.
Yep, we already did that. So we were talking about those the emotional people, right? Hopefully this video will play.
Yeah, I just wasn't playing because you were talking.
All right, so parents in the room, how many times have you dealt with this with your kids? How many times have we dealt with this in a firehouse? Right? Like let's be honest. Like this is
the same.
there's a witching hour, right? There's always this time of the day where we're just overgrown versions of this. So, as an adult, if our kids were doing that, you're like, no, it's nap time, right? But in a firehouse, we're like, no. Drink more coffee, stay up till 10 o'clock because we don't go to bed earlier. It's a sign of weakness. And what are we doing? We're just perpetuating this right here. So.
Yeah. All right, so how do we change it? What can we control? What's in our circle of concern versus influences versus control, right? Have you guys seen this diagram before? These are all things in your world, your circle of concern, things that that interest you. All right, you can't control all these things, right? You have no way of controlling some of the outside things in your world. Then the smaller circle is things that you can influence, but you may not be able to directly change. So I might be able to say something to somebody. I can't force them to do something, right? So that's more of your circle of influence. And then things you can control is things that you have a direct ability to control. These are the, I'm going to say controls, the controls in your life that you can enact in order to get a better product out of your sleep environment, let's say.
So going down this list here, what are some of the things that we can control? What are some of them that we can't? It's interactive. Don't fall asleep. I know it's a sleep. What's that? Diet and exercise, right? We can choose what we eat, when we exercise, if we exercise, right? What else? What can we not control? Call volume. How about the routine? Can we control our routine completely in the fire department? So yes and no, right? We can't say, I'm not going on this call because it's messing with my routine. How nice would that be? But the little things of, we just talked about it this morning, that like I have a hard stop time at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. And when I say hard stop, that means like undercovers, lights out, I'm in bed. If my reports aren't done, I'll do them tomorrow. I'll get to them because I need to go to bed. Because what else can I not control? The calls that are going to happen after I go to bed. So if I don't wait to go to bed until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, staying up all night because we've been running calls all day, now I'm up till 2 o'clock. That call at 2:30 or 3 o'clock when I've only had 20 minutes of sleep in 24 hours, it's not bad. There's scientific proof that your BAC, having that little sleep equals a BAC of like 0.16, like twice the legal limit. Not just intoxicated, but twice the legal limit. And it's like 18 hours of no sleep is that bad. Kids' schedules and needs, we can kind of control that, right? If we can fit it into our routine. The shift work, obviously we can't. We can if you go to day work, but our sleeping environment. At home, we kind of can control it. Firehouse, maybe not so much, right? Who here likes their bunk room super cold as you can get it, right? Who doesn't? Typically, those people are in the same bunk rooms, right? So we have to mix that. We have to kind of work around it. So, and there's things that we're doing, like we're starting to, put the dividers into bunk rooms so that you can kind of control it. Who here likes to sleep with a TV on or a light on? Anybody?
Wow.
Okay. That's good because we'll get into it later. Typically the husband and wife, one likes it cold and dark, the other one wants it warm and bright, and they're a foot away from each other. But we can control that a little bit. So again, control the controllables. Do what you can.
And shift those priorities to prioritize sleep with the understanding that it's going to have impacts on literally every other aspect of your life, from your health to your family to your job.
All right, so the bonus sleep. This is kind of what I actually was talking to Chief Savak about it, and Megan alluded to it. That time in the afternoon where everybody wants that, like they want that coffee, they want that energy drink, they want the soda or the cookies, the candy, whatever it is, just to get them through that afternoon hump. It's scientifically proven that that's a nap time, right? We need that. European and Hispanic cultures, they do it, right? 2 to 4, everything shuts down. They take a nap, they recharge, and they come back and they work harder. They go back to school, they do all their stuff. So typically that's what happens. Who does 3 o'clock coffee at the firehouse? Right. I would say the majority of firehouses. I see some of the older faces in the room that are nodding. I'm pretty sure that was a regular thing if it wasn't just a pot of coffee on all day. So the ways of old in our department was we weren't allowed to sleep. We weren't allowed to be feet up. We weren't allowed to be reclined before 5 o'clock. I think we've gotten away from that, thankfully, because now that afternoon, if that's what we need, hey, you guys need 20 minutes to go close your eyes and recharge. I'd rather have that than you sideswipe a car driving a fire engine, misdose a patient, something like that. I'd rather you be recharged. So naps are not necessarily a bad thing. If we're going to take a nap, 20 minutes or 90 minutes. You get Yep. If you anything in between it's not effective or not as effective.
Your sleep cycle runs between 90 minutes to 2 hours. So that's what we're shooting for, is to get a full sleep cycle or get a power nap. That's
Yep. The power nap, they call it like a deep rest, no sleep. So if you just go into the bunk room, kick your boots off, lay back for a few minutes, close your eyes, pull your hat down over your eyes, cool, dark, quiet, 20 minutes with the box breathing that we'll go over or some sort of breathing technique just to get nice and relaxed, and then pop back up. You'll feel a whole lot better. Any more than that, you get that groggy state. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and then follow with coffee.
Right. Yeah. And then a little caffeine after that. They say that's actually a pretty good combination. So some of the relaxation techniques, box breathing, yoga nidra, and meditation. Box breathing, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with. We talk about it with SCBA techniques, but in the picture on the top, take a breath in for 3 to 5 seconds, hold it for 3 to 5 seconds, exhale for 3 to 5, and hold for 3 to 5. Do that a few times, and that really slows everything down. The paramedics in the room, what do we do? What's our first line of defense with an SVT patient? A vagal maneuver? It's the same thing. We're trying to slow that heart rate down. We're just doing it in a more controlled manner. Yoga nidra, they say it's a breath with sound. So take a breath in as long and as hard as you can. And then when you let it out, you kind of like you're screaming without making a sound. You can kind of feel it in the back of your throat as you're exhaling. Same thing, it stimulates the vagus nerve and really slows everything down. Those 2 points are really good for the officers in here when you're going to a fire and it's starting to get exciting. You start to feel your heart rate going. Doing those things while you're going down the road will help calm you down there too. I haven't gone down the meditation road so much. Jen, are you more familiar with it?
So, and I think that there's another, maybe we're varying terms. There's another yoga form. I thought it was the yoga nidra, that it's like a guided, like starting with your eyes. Like you're going to feel a light cross over your eyes and then you'll feel it go down your nose. They go through your whole body. That knocks me out for a power nap at any time. So if you just go on YouTube and look up yoga nidra, you'll get like a 20-minute snippet of that. Perfect for a power nap. I haven't done a ton of meditation. The main goal of these 3 items is to be able to achieve a parasympathetic state, right? Like, because so often firefighters are like constantly up here. And so we're trying to give you tools to be able to relax a little bit, because when you can't sleep, this is what we're going to ask you to do to be able to relax in order to be able to sleep.
Yeah. One of the analogies in the book that we read is kind of like sitting in a car. It's like sitting with your foot on the accelerator. So you got the RPMs up, but because we're not running a call, your foot's on the brake saying slow down. So you're doing both at the same time. That's why we start getting anxious. That's why we start feeling these things where you're like, man, I'm so tired, but I can't fall asleep because the tones are going off. The TV's on. You know, we've got these CAD screens that are great for picking up calls, but every time they blink, I'm sure everybody in the room turns and looks at the TV. Anywhere you go and a TV blinks, we look.
Anytime it turns red now, I'm like,
anything that turns red or we hear like a wobble to our. Okay, anyway, then we go back with our conversation. Because we're running in that up and down state all the time, it is hard for us to relax and take naps. And then we do find some people in the stations that can sit in a chair and kind of lean back and they're asleep instantly. And I just want to, how do you do that? I just want to be able to do that. So.
All right.
All right. So to kind of wrap it all up, I came up with the 4 C's. We need consistency, consumption, conditions, and catch up. The consistency is our sleep pattern. Try to go to bed at the same time. Try to wake up at the same time. If you get that pattern, your body loves patterns. So the same bedtime, same wake time, try to do that so that when we do have a shift where we get our butts kicked, we're not really upsetting our pattern. It's just one day of that. Our sleep duration. So as long as we have the same sleep pattern, we're getting that same sleep duration, same sleep conditions, which we'll kind of cover in 2 more. But, cool, dark, quiet. I actually sleep with a sound machine at work and at home. I don't know if...
And not at work, but I do at home.
Yeah. So with some of the brainwave activity, they say that the sound waves that you hear in your sleep will actually help your brain waves match it. So if you have mine's usually the sound of rolling waves and stuff like that. So it's nice and slow. They say that your brain will actually match those waves and it'll help you stay asleep in deep sleep a little bit longer.
I will say that's a tool that I use. Like if we run overnight and then I have a hard time falling back asleep after we've run, I'll turn on sleep sounds And typically that'll help me fall back asleep.
So consumption, the good and the not so good, right? We want to stay hydrated. We got to make sure we have a balanced diet. That's where Megan's stuff really comes into play. And sunlight. So typically, as the officer, sometimes we're stuck in the office and we're stuck under these lights, the LED lights, just all this fake light. We need to get outside. The body needs sunlight. It needs it. They say the first thing you should do in the morning before you get your coffee is get sunlight. Get as much bright light, natural sunlight into your eyes. That'll help set your circadian rhythm. So that's just biological there. So we talked about the alcohol, caffeine, and blue light. So alcohol, if you're going to drink earlier, right? If you're going to drink late, don't anticipate getting a good night's sleep. Caffeine, sparingly. I used to be the pre-workout on top of coffee, on top of coffee, on top of coffee, on top of an energy drink, on top of coffee. So I was in that close to 2,000 milligrams of caffeine a day, and I was like, I don't know why I can't sleep. This is crazy. Who knew? So blue light is actually everywhere. And I've been using blue light glasses in the evening when I do sit down and do my office stuff. So like after dinner and I'm sitting at a computer, I'm using blue light glasses. The blue light actually slows down your melatonin release for up to like 3 or 4 hours. So if you're sitting there watching TV before you go to bed and then you roll over and you're like, I can't fall asleep, because your brain's saying the light is stimulating me to be awake. I need to be awake. I'm not releasing the melatonin. Taking more melatonin does not speed it up, I promise. So just be cognizant of those things.
So just a couple like wrap up points, and I think we have like one more slide, but we're not striving for perfection here, right? Like there's an 80-20 rule. Like if you can do right most of the time, then 20%, like, okay, it is what it is, we'll take it. But if you start to make small shifts and prioritize your sleep, I guarantee you're going to see some positive results out of that. I've heard the argument, and this is just a random one, I've heard the argument that I do better on overnight calls if I stay up later because then I'm not as groggy. No matter what, that first deep sleep cycle, that first REM cycle too, that's the deepest sleep you're getting all night, and you're going to be groggy no matter what time of the night that occurs. So the timing doesn't matter. Whether you go to sleep at 10 o'clock or go to sleep at 2 o'clock, if a call catches you in the middle of that cycle, you're going to be groggy. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about that.
The book has a ton of examples of REM sleep and how it actually is the reason we have so much creativity. So the people that are super creative, they get a lot of sleep and they get a lot of REM sleep. The Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger wrote a song, Satisfaction. He woke up in the middle of the night to it. He used to keep his guitar and recorder next to his bed. He had a dream of this riff. He woke up, turned on the recorder, played it in his guitar, played it a couple times. He liked it, went back to sleep. Next day, they write a classic song. Einstein used to sleep for like an hour and a half at a time throughout the day, never had a real sleep cycle. He would sleep and he would keep like coins or washers or something in his hand with a metal bowl. And as he would doze off and fall asleep, REM sleep, you go paralyzed, he would drop the stuff and it would hit the pan. It would wake him up while he's thinking about a topic. And then he's like, that's how I'm going to figure it out. So we need REM sleep. There's studies that show these people would let them sleep. Once they got into REM sleep, then they would throw them math quizzes that they've never seen before. And they're like, oh, yep. Mm-hmm. And they actually did really well compared to people that learned the lesson and took the test hours later with little sleep. So REM sleep actually sparks your creativity. So,
I think it was right around the time that we got interrupted with the AV stuff, but I think where firefighters different from general populace on their sleep cycles is that we get less deep sleep than the general populace too. And I don't know if that's because we're always at a heightened state or why, but like on the chart that we showed you, that was my Apple Watch, it was 8% average that I got of deep sleep, and you should be getting between 10 and 25. I'm not that old, so it shouldn't be that low for me, right? But everything else kind of stays the same as general populace. Are you good on this? Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm here for the presenter. I wish I could remember her name. Does first responders, specifically firefighters, work overnight? Well, a lot of people, the general public, get REM sleep towards the end of the sleep cycle. That our bodies as humans actually realize, and I don't get this every 3 or 4 nights. So, and I can see on my Fitbit, my REM sleep is going to happen like when I fall asleep,
Yes.
which is not a normal sleep cycle for a normal human. So my body is like, I know she's gonna get this in the next 2 nights. We're gonna put it in the beginning to try and clear all that trash out sooner than later because I'm worried I'm not gonna get it again. Just to
Yeah.
make it
So you get more of that brainwashing processing in the deep sleep where you have the slower waves. REM sleep, actually, the brain waves mimic being awake. So, but yeah, so here's another thing to think about. She's absolutely right. You get more REM sleep towards the later sleep cycles or closer to when you wake up. Who here wakes up way earlier to come to work than they do on their normal days? Right? So you're waking up an hour early, maybe 2 hours earlier than you normally would. So those valuable REM hours and minutes that you were supposed to be getting, you basically cut them off. So now we've lost part of our sleep cycle. So again, if I have to go to bed at 7 p.m. to make sure that I'm well rested for my 4 a.m. wake up to go to work, maybe that's what I have to do. So that's a controllable that we can look at.
And then we get into the conversation of moving all of your bedtimes earlier to be able to make that into a habit, right?
Right. Actually, back up one more.
Yep.
So then we talked about the power nap, that 20 minutes or 90 minutes sleep that we kind of went over that, where if I didn't get my 7 hours tonight, my body wants it tomorrow night. So now if I've missed an hour tonight and I miss an hour tomorrow night and I miss another hour, my body's going to catch up. It's going to take that time, and we'll see micro sleeps. So if you don't sleep, your body will. Who here drives an hour or more going home to or from work? Okay. Have you ever gotten your butt kicked at work? You're on your way home and you know your route, and all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? Like, I don't remember this stretch of this highway. That's that adenosine and that caffeine that Megan was talking about. The adenosine receptors, the caffeine blocks that out, and then all of a sudden the adenosine receptors will create new pathways, and they're like, and you're asleep. I'm going to make you catch up on the sleep that you didn't get. So I've driven home from work and hit that last bump on the Bay Bridge, and I'm like, I don't remember getting on the bridge. So these things will happen. So if you do not get your sleep, your body will make sure you get it, and it's not going to be when and where you want to. So,
all right. So that wraps for us. These are the objectives that we covered. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Why We Sleep. You have a copy with you, don't you, Jen?
Yeah. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. You can pass it on. Also, shout out to Chief Savak's reference here. Oh, and I lost the page. In this article of Crackle, there was a sleep. I lost it. Is lack of sleep ruining the best job ever? Issue number 12.
And the more that we dive into the peer support world and all this, the physical fitness and everything, I mean, obviously, after we've done this program, at least when I did this program, it's easy to see that sleep is the core of all of it. Sleep is the core of mental health, of all the successes that we have. If you're not getting good sleep, I can promise you, all those other things around it, they're not going to have a good foundation.
And if you are able to get your sleep better, you will be surprised at how easy other things start falling into place.
Yes, sir.
Is there a color of sleep noise that's recommended?
I think it's whatever works.
So I use white noise. The machine that I use is a hatch machine, and literally I went through Target to find it. It's in the baby section. So I get it, and it's just whatever noises they have. Heartbeats. There's rain. There's just dryer. There's all sorts of stuff. Whatever works. We have a lot of older firehouses, so we have window units. They work great. I remember working at 2 years ago, and the officer came in and kept turning the AC unit off in the middle of the winter, and I kept turning it back on. And she said, "Over my dead body," and I was like, "Okay." And nobody slept but her, and because they turned that white noise off. So after that, they were totally on board with letting us have the AC unit on because she heard us tossing and turning all night long. But so no, I don't have a recommendation on it. That would have to be some research.
I think it's whatever works best for you.
Yeah.
So.
And then we just kind of went over the quick actionable items, right? Just controlling what you can control: your caffeine intake, your alcohol intake, your bedtime, your wake time, things like that, the conditions around you.
7 now.
At least.
Six should be the bare minimum. So in the program we actually went through is called 6-2 recovery. 6 is the bare minimum that they're saying is a functioning platform.
Yeah, and there's the percentage of people that say they can function with regular less than 6 hours of sleep is rounded to the closest near number is 0. Like there are people that are genetically wired that they can function on that little bit of sleep, but the number of people on the planet that can do it is almost 0. So.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Person joining me who is also a physical therapist. And we're going to talk a little bit today just about injury prevention, injury reduction, and some things you can do to kind of be prepared for the stuff that's at hand on a day-to-day from like a work basis. All right, so who we are, what physical therapy is, preventing injury and staying mobile, and we're going to relate that back to some common injuries. All right. So this is me. This is Dr. Drew. He'll be here soon. So we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of interactions with the fire department. We've worked with a number of firefighters over the years. And we were lucky enough that, there's Drew. We were lucky enough that we were able to kind of go in, get a taste of what the CPAT looks like, put on some equipment, and really get the feel of things. We're often trying to recreate what you guys have to do with work on a day-to-day basis. So it's nice to be able to kind of really feel what the weight of the equipment feels like, because it is crazy how much more challenging it makes things. So our goal is to relate back to you all and be able to mimic the demands of work. So that way we're able to get you back more than 100%. Next slide. So who we are physical therapy, sports rehab. So insurance-based. We are, and this is Dr. Drew. Yeah. We are right up the road in Gambrills, and then we are also in Annapolis off Forest Drive. So this is a picture of our Annapolis office. We're lucky enough that we're going to be able to expand there. There we go. Expand there this year. And our Gambrills office is a little bit bigger, which I'll have him move to the next slide here. And here's a picture of the Gambrills office. Good. Move on to the next. Are you able to play that? Short little clip here. So short little promo, but it really just shows like we're keeping you active, we're keeping you going. That was Matt. He's actually a marketing guy, and he came into us for some shoulder pain. You can move to the next one. Oh no. Sorry, I made it more complicated by throwing a video in there. But yeah, short little promo just showing, hey, we're getting you active, we're getting you moving. We've got the turf, we've got the weights, we've got all the things to mimic the demands of what you're doing on like a day-to-day basis. So why we are here, we want to talk about optimizing everything you can do for yourself and your team on a day-to-day basis. I've done presentations for other fire department groups before, and the big thing I know with you all is the shifts are long, and you often are having them stacked, and then nobody ever wants to be on light duty, and a lot of people are working a lot of overtime. So making sure that you're able to do that, because I know you guys feed on that. Figuring out what you can do to perform at your best and make the day easier on yourself and your body, and then talking about injury reduction. So 3 big injuries that we see. We often see low back strains. We also often see a lot of knee injuries. And then we often get a lot of shoulder, like overhead, reaching back sort of injuries. So I want to go some quick, easy things that you can do help prevent those from happening. Sidebar, I also see a lot of like pregnancy postpartum as well. So the time frame from having a baby and kind of getting back into the field, trying to make sure that your body is ready for that. But then also, how do we get through the day when we are pregnant, and when's that kind of point where we're like dwindling back a little bit and just keeping everything everything going during that and in the postpartum period. All right, before you play, got one last video. So I know this is from a Marine. I know like I often categorize firefighter, police, tactical athlete is a category that we put that into. So this is just a short little glimpse into like the rehab of somebody that came to us for a pretty intense injury who was a Marine.
I'm Eric Willson. I've been a Colonel Marine Corps for 15 years. I started here at RTP in January of this year. After spending almost a year for free rehabbing it, dislocated my knee, tore all ligaments in my knee, broke my tibia, my femur, pulled my popliteal artery, stretched out my tibial and hernia nerves, optic my foot paralyzed. So after 11 surgeries, a couple of infections back running, next to Walter Reed and the RTP team here. I've been with Chris since January, and he is taking kind of full range from really rehabbing with my braces on, now focusing on working out confidence, so not getting that brace, working on the balance with little muscles, because turn me to their point.
Good. So yeah, big injury that he had, but taking a well-rounded approach. So you can see definitely moving some bigger weights, but then also doing some smaller stuff that was able to kind of get him towards his goals. So moving into just our injury and risk factors, and then we're going to go specifically on the body parts. So big things that we see just from you all is, lack of recovery, overuse. There's a lot of like repetitive movements that you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis. The gear can also be very limiting and restricting, which can put more stress and strain on certain areas of the body. The environment, I mean, it's just oftentimes you're in a more stressful environment, which is just going to make your whole body get into like a bit of a heightened state. You have to go from 0 to 60. So lack of preparation, warm up. If you always have your body kind of ready to go, then those quick, like, okay, we got to go from nothing to everything can be a little bit easier. Physical fitness levels, so making sure we're maintaining some sort of standard there. Nutrition definitely can be challenging, on like the 24-hour shifts and what the eating schedule is like if you're up in the middle of the night, and things like that. And then that also plays into sleep, which is also a big thing from injuries and also recovery as well. So the nature of the job is already conducive to increase our risk factors for injury. So what can we do to push the needle in the other direction? All right, low back, I'll hit this and then you want to do that. Common injuries. So muscle strains and disc herniations are big things that we get from you guys on low back. So why? In really just getting that increased stress or load of those muscles or that spine that it's not necessarily prepared for. So you're either like rotating aggressively, or I know some of the positions that you guys have to get in to pick people up and move them can be using those muscles in a stretch position. So what can we do? We want to keep the muscles of the low back flexible and able to move, beyond the region of what you're going to have to do on a day-to-day basis. We want to regularly expose the back to forces that mimic the demands of the job, and then also some recovery type stuff. So what does that look like? So 2 categories, flexibility and load. So flexibility wise, I'm going to just do a couple easy things. I don't want to pepper you guys with tons of exercises or anything like that. So big things from that, we've got our cat-cows and child's pose. So, our cat-cow is going to be on all fours doing that, like rounding and extending of the spine, getting that full exposure to the range of motion. And then child's pose is going to be just your, lean back, stretch out through the arms, try to get those kind of side bending type motions, expose the back. 2 quick, easy stretches. And then one other big one is the hips. So we want to make sure those hips are flexible. So Drew's going to show us. We're going to be in a 90-90 position. We got 90 degrees at the groin, 90 degrees at each knee, and then he's going to try to rotate to the other side. If you can do this, great. If you can't, and you have to put your hands behind you, feel like you're falling back, that's a good test to see like, okay, are my hips flexible, or am I a spot where things aren't rotating as much? If your hips have good range of motion, then your back doesn't have to do quite as much work. So keeping the hips flexible is going to help take the load off the back. Thanks, Drew. From a load standpoint, hinging is a big thing. So whenever we're picking up heavy stuff, we're going into that hinge pattern. We have to sit the hips back. We're loading through the spine. So trap bar deadlift, some sort of like RDL type motion where we're keeping a stiffer knee position and hinging through those hips. Load that. How much weight are you picking up during the day on like a work shift? You want to make sure that you're able to do that in a controlled environment before you have to go out and do it in more of an uncontrolled environment. Hamstring wise, that's another one that we want to be able to keep loading. So if you want, single leg bridges are a good one. So we can either just be up and down here, also loading with a weight potentially on the hips. If that feels a little bit too challenging, maybe you're getting a little bit of pain in the back, we'll go double leg. Maybe going up with 2 and then shifting to 1 and coming down with 1. And then from our core standpoint, lots of things you can do from the core, but we can get into, Drew's going to show a bear crawl position here. Yep. So we're going to
alternate.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
sorry, dead bug. My bad.
Dead bug's going to be on your back. Yep.
Yep.
So here, alternate. Yep. This is a good one to just work those spine extensors, but then also get just some of the abs working too. And then I like to be functional and if you have a cable column or a band or something like that, we're able to do like a rotational chop. So I know everyone probably has different workouts that they do, how they organize things, but you want to make sure you do have a day that is going to load up the hamstrings, the back, but then also get the core as well. Let's move on to the next one. Go shoulders.
Shoulders, yeah, that's fine. Cool. So I'm assuming that a lot of us have probably had some sort of shoulder injury, whether it's irritation, strain. It could be something potentially from the labrum or the rotator cuff group. Typically, it is a muscle strain issue when it comes to common injuries related to the shoulder. So in terms of like overhead tasks, reaching behind the back, lifting different things in precarious positions can kind of put us or predispose us to those injuries. So what we can do. So keeping those guys flexible, we're thinking about the shoulder, but we have to think about the other areas of the body. So the thoracic spine, that mid to upper back area, how well are we able to move through the spine? Because our thoracic spine helps with shoulder movement. Think about the shoulder blade as well, the scapula. How well does that move? And then if you have issues or limitations there, then the shoulder becomes compromised when you're trying to lift or twist in different positions there. So, so exposing the shoulder to these different demands that you guys have to partake in. So when it comes to flexibility of the shoulder, we have different tests and things that we do similar to the low back and when we're looking at range of motion and flexibility in those aspects. So we have for the shoulder from a doorway lat stretch standpoint, we usually do a test where we have our back against the wall and then can your hand reach here without arching through your back? So typically when you're doing this test, you'll have a lot of people get to here and then they'll compensate through here. So that means there is a lat restriction there. So typically you'll grab a door frame, you'll just grab here, grab on that door frame, sit back. And we can typically, and normally when we teach this to our athletes, we'll have hand-to-hand hold, drop the head through, and sit back. And we'll normally do that as like a hold position. You can hold 15 to 30 seconds or so. Really sit back and hold that stretch. Drop the head through. Think about the spine is also in play there. Don't keep your head up. You want to get that overhead type position. So we're essentially here and moving through there. So the upper back, I talked about the thoracic spine. Jamie's going to show us the open book. You've probably seen this done a few different ways. So kind of fetal position, arms are outstretched in front, and she's going to rotate out to the side and then back. Ideally, you want to get your back shoulder to the floor when you're doing this. You don't want to just try and reach your hand. So she has a little bit of a limitation here where I'm noticing she's not able to get to that back shoulder to the floor, but that's not a bad thing. It's something that she can address or continue to work on. So you can do it with both the knees bent position, or you can have the foot or knee top leg over top, and it really locks it out. So when you open up, you're really trying to get that thoracic spine. When you lock out the lumbar spine, you're having more thoracic motion being the focus. All right, so that's the mobility or flexibility side. Now let's talk about load. So there's different types of things that y'all have to do. Jamie and I experience like lifting the heavy equipment,
Ryan is a testament to that. Everything y'all pick up is heavy. Like, I will say that. And I'm in the gym all the time, and I'm like, this is a lot. So, and then having the gear on top of that, it says a lot. So I understand. So exposing yourself to different demands. So suitcase carries, overhead carries, we typically coach this in our clinics. So we have them walk down the turf, down and back, holding kettlebells by the side, overhead, in front, one kettlebell overhead, one kettlebell down low, different positions that we try and put you in so it adds more stress or load to the tissue over a period of time, especially with the demand of your job. And then overhead piece, you have the half kneeling overhead press. We may do this in like a landmine position where you have the barbell pushing at an angle where it's not truly overhead, but you're still getting some level of strength there, or with a dumbbell or kettlebell straight up and down. So when you're in that half kneeling position, you're adding a little bit of that abdominal or core piece to it, but then you're also getting to that overhead where you're mixing in both abdominal, spinal, and shoulder. And then last piece is the stability piece, which I feel like a lot of people struggle with because we typically don't put our hands on the floor when we're doing day-to-day activity, but stability. So think of a high plank position or a push-up position, and you'll do a reach through. Typically you'll have, you can do a rotation up and then reach through. And you're spending time on one arm and then rotating through. So you're getting not only shoulder stability, but you're also getting rotation through the spine. And like I said, we talked about the thoracic spine being a part of shoulder strength, shoulder health when it comes to looking at the shoulder from a load perspective. Cool.
All right, last body part is going to be our knees. She's firefighter, but she's actually Howard County, so we've definitely seen from all over. So I think meniscus is the big one we see for knees, those plant and twist injuries. Maybe you kind of step down when things wrong and rotated. So the meniscus is that cushion between the knee joint where the femur comes down and the tibia starts. So what can we do about that? You're seeing a common theme here. You want to keep areas above and below flexible. You want to load the area to the demands of what you're going to put it on a day-to-day basis. You can go next one. So a big thing is quads and the hips. So we talked about hip rotation with the low back. We talked about keeping that flexible. Big area that we see on really like anyone is just tightness in the front of the hips. We're all sitting all day a lot of times, and then we get up and move, and it's like we're tight through those hips. So the couch stretch is a good one to get things very flexible. So
Jamie is so much better at this than me,
yeah.
But
So you need some sort of surface. You want ideally a little cushion underneath of your knee, so you're not pinpointing your knee on the ground, but you're getting there and you're trying to just straighten up as much as you can. If this feels super tight, we might take out the back of this and we might just do like a hip flexor stretch. So just coming down onto the ground, take a knee, and then he's going to kind of really try to tuck his tailbone under to get that good stretch through that front of the hip and just either shift forward if he can. But the key with this is we don't want to do too much back extension where you're just arching through your back. You want to really squeeze through the glutes and get a good stretch to the front. If your hips are tight, your quads are tight, then there's already some compression going on your knee anyways because of that complex that goes right over top. And then you add a twist to that, it's going to really irritate that tissue underneath. Hamstrings, obviously those are on the other side of the leg. So one easy one that we like to do for that you don't have to just sit on your back and do the hamstring stretch forever is just getting in like a kickstand position and doing a nice reach towards those toes. It's an easy one to do. It feels like it loosens things up. I would say a little bit more for people than you're just laying on your back doing that like classic hamstring stretch. And then we would load it just like everything else. So we've got maybe your hinge day where you're doing your deadlifts and things like that are going to help with the low back. And then we have more like a quad dominant day. So something that's a little bit more single leg, a little bit more targeting towards one side over the other. So a split squat or a rear foot elevated split squat. So starting off with just your basic where you can be here and just up and down, loading either weight in the front, weights on the sides. That's going to get the quads activated and getting some strength into those. And then we also want to do, if you're feeling good with that, you can go even a little bit more single leg to work that stability as well with the rear foot elevated or a Bulgarian split squat. And then to expose the knee to more of those compression type forces that we get on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be our like snap downs or depth drops. So I don't know how much of us are jumping in our workouts. It's not like we should be doing a ton of jumping all the time, but if you are getting that compression force through your knees, it would be nice to have that in advance. So snap downs are a nice, easy force absorption type activity that you can do. So we can start off with 2 feet and then we'll come down, land to 2. You're getting that quick absorption. You're having your body get used to just absorbing force. We can go from there, from 2 feet down to a staggered stance. Yep. And then we can go from 2 feet down to 1. So it works balance a little bit, get some compression without us going too crazy like a box jump or something like that. That feels comfortable, feels okay. Then we would move from those same exact movements to like a small height where we're coming down from it. So if you're on like a 6-inch step, just to start off with, you could be on, you can either go 2 to 2, you could be up on that step, you could go 2 to 1, or you could go 1 foot to the other foot. So just getting some of that going. And then if you feel great with that, then we'll do more like up and downs where you're doing either like some vertical jumps or a box jumps, things like that. I mentioned recovery in every single slide, but didn't touch too much on it. There's a lot of things we can do from recovery, and I think a lot of us skip out on that, myself included. Oftentimes we're so busy running from work to the home duties that we forget about, hey, maybe we should do something to actually like help our bodies reset. So finding some sort of routine that you're able to get into. Is there a massage therapist that you like? Do you use the foam roller or a massage gun? Do you get in the recovery boots? We have a lot of recovery stuff at the office too. So we always like have you guys can come in at any time and do like a free recovery session. Those are the recovery boots right there. Those are nice for like any sort of like lower extremity soreness. They zip up like pants and they have intermittent compression. So anyone that's dealing with like soreness in the legs, tightness in the calves or anything like that, that can help. We do a lot of hands-on work for people that need. So we go anything from soft tissue work to dry needling, scraping, cupping, you name it, we do it. But there's so many other types of people that will do that. Like I said, with massage therapy, acupuncture, things like that. And then here's just our like massage gun. I feel like a lot of people have those at home these days. And sometimes it just needs somebody to be like, this is what you should be doing for your body because you're tight here, here, here. So that way you're able to be like, okay, this is what I should focus on rather than just being like, I don't really know what to do with this. Last one. Here's our contact information. I'm sure it can be distributed. You're always welcome to reach out. If you have any questions, we always offer free consults. We'll be around afterwards to talk with anybody that has any specific questions. But like I said, we're in network with all major insurances. We have free consults at any point in time. We also offer something called tune-ups, which is basically those like recovery type sessions where you can get any sort of hands-on work. You can use some of the modalities to get yourself feeling better. And we just thank you for letting us be here today. Anything else from your end?
What's that?
Anything else from you?
Thank you.
Question.
What are all your locations?
Annapolis was the first one, Gambrills, but we also have Columbia for any people that are out that way. And then we have 11 locations. So we're soon to open up in PG County as well in the Largo area. But yeah, those are our kind of like closer ones around here.
We only had one set of turnout gear. We did a lot of stupid things that they don't permit anymore. There's a lot more safety involved in the job today than that we actually probably didn't do back in our day. And right now we're paying results. A lot of our people are coming down with cancer and other serious issues that are being addressed through workman's comp and things like that. What I'd like to say is when I retired, I didn't go because I was aggravated with the job. I went because I felt it was time to go. I didn't enjoy the job anymore. And I also had started another job, part-time. We worked a 24, 48-hour shift back in the day. And most all of our firefighters then worked part-time jobs. I don't know what you do today with your 3 days off, but we all work part-time jobs. I was blessed that I went to work for the airlines and I worked for them long enough to get a retirement so that I could not only get a paycheck every month from them, but I got lifetime flight benefits. So my family could fly everywhere. After I had enough with the airlines, excuse me, I maintained my EMT till I was 70 years old. I'm going to be 77 this year. Thank you. I made it that far. Anyway, I went to work as an EMT at the racetrack. I worked at Laurel and Bowie. As a matter of fact, Joe was my EMT instructor on several occasions. So he kind of helped me get through it. But anyway, so after working 20 years at the track, I finally said that was enough. But during this time, since I was working part-time jobs and I was able to get 3 nice pensions, fire department, racetrack, and the airline, it was time for my Social Security to kick in. So I figured, well, we had started doing a lot of traveling. I recently lost my wife, but anyway, we had a hell of a life together with, traveling, and she was a school teacher for 32 years. But anyway, I just want to say that we've had some of our people, and I'm saying this, please listen to what I'm saying. Some people get aggravated with the job and they want to leave when they have 20 years in. We never had the drop program when I was in. So I would recommend, if you're going to decide to go at 20 years, please have something lined up that you really want to do. I could tell you horror stories about some of our guys and girls that could not wait to get out of the department, to retire. And once they did, within a year or two, they were the most miserable people in the world because they made the wrong choice. So please make sure when you decide you want to retire, make sure it's something you really want to do, because once you leave, chances are you're not coming back to it. So that's what I want to say. I want to thank Joe for letting us come here today. I really enjoyed it. I don't know a lot of you people. Some of you probably heard my name. I've been president with for the retired firefighters for 10 years. I'm like Joe, we can't find people to replace us. But anyway, but I really enjoyed myself. Thanks, Joe, for having us. And I don't know if anybody, I'm going to let Doug Willson say a few words.
My name's Doug Willson. I've been retired 17 years. I've retired as a fire investigator and canine handler. I want to reiterate what Bill has said, is have something else to do. Retirement's not what it's all cracked up to be. If you think you're going to retire and just sit at home, you're going to get tired of that. You're going to get tired of cutting the grass, and you're going to get tired of playing golf, and you're going to get tired of doing all your recreational things. But you got to have a reason every morning to get out of bed and do something. And I don't care what it is, but the way that things are today financially, you're almost going to have to go back out and find another job, especially if you're retiring with just 20 years on the job. In my case, I waited till I had my 30 years, and then I went in the drop for 5 years. And I took that drop money and I invested it. And to today, I haven't touched it. My grandkids will probably get it. But that's my recommendation for you guys. Be prepared, plan out what you're going to do. Get in deferred comp now if you're not. And tell the younger guys, get in deferred comp. And start, saving your money so you'll have it later on. I can't imagine when I came to work for the fire department in 1973, started out, I think it was $7,200 a year. My paycheck every 2 weeks was $115. And I thought I had the world by the ass, But as time went on, and then today I understand the guys that are topped out and driving fire engines are making almost $100,000 a year. Over. Wow, that's just crazy to me. I mean, after 35 years, I retired at $60,000 a year, and I thought that was a lot. Just think about what you're doing. Retirement's not what it's all cracked up to be. And I worked for 10 years after I retired, doing fire investigations for a good friend of mine. And I got sick in 2018. I came down with leukemia. I fought that for a year. I've been in remission since then. And why I'm still here, I don't understand. But nevertheless, I've been completely retired since then. I haven't done anything. Today, I help out with the volunteer fire companies on the Eastern Shore, and I help kids get prepared for the fire service and get prepared to come take a test in Anne Arundel County or some other jurisdiction. And that's what makes me feel good today. If I can prepare a young kid, teach him some basic firefighting skills and prepare him for a test, then that's what makes me happy today. But besides that, I wish you all good luck and a successful retirement when it comes around. Thank you.
So if I just touch on the leukemia for a second here. Joe or Bill, if you can help me out with this one. I actually didn't know this until one of our recent firefighters came down with it. The presumptive cancer laws do not go into effect until 10 years service as a career firefighter. Is that
Joe,
correct?
is that correct?
Yeah, just that one. A little seed to plant there is that, you know, we talk about having clean gear, clean up, and a shower within the hour and get back. Some people kind of brush it off, etc. For our firefighter currently who's fighting his head and neck cancer and has 9+ years in the job, his presumptive cancer as of right now, again, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's still a winnable case.
No, 100%.
Even if it's not presumptive cancer, any kind of cancer, it's winnable. We've
Right.
done it before. We've had people come down even before brain cancer was a presumptive cancer. We won that case and that person died. So every cancer is.
And so it's still, the long and short of it, it's still, you have to fight for it at that point. So something put in the back of your mind, especially for our senior folks in here, you know, senior firefighters and officers, when your folks are kind of brushing it off or, you know, having some of the dirty gear, and I'll be honest with you, travel around, I see it less and less and less, which is fantastic. But really press upon that, hey, just keep in mind, you may have to fight for yourselves to get the treatment and get the benefits needed. So thank you for bringing up sharing.
When I came down with leukemia, I was living in South Carolina. And luckily, the doctor that I saw got me admitted into the leukemia center at MUSC in Charleston, which I highly recommend. They saved my life with no doubt in my mind. The physicians there, it's a teaching hospital, but the physicians there, they kind of got their heads together. And I asked them, I said, what do you think brought this on? And they said, without a doubt, it was benzenes related. Now, everything that you all do or have done, you've gotten in touch with some type of benzene material. So if you don't, and the carcinogens that you come in touch with every day, you got to protect yourself, because I never thought in a million years that I'd ever come down with cancer. There's nobody in my family on either side that's ever had cancer. And I can guarantee that it came in, it was caused by something that I came in touch with during my career on a regular basis.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing. Doug just brought up something that I recall what his starting salary was. I started in 1968, and my starting salary was $5,200 a year. And then if a pump operator wanted off and we worked, there was no such thing as overtime. If we worked for that pump operator, they gave us a whooming $53 a shift. 54. I'm sorry, 54, and that before taxes. So you can see how things have progressed over the years. But anyway, we managed to make it. So does anybody else want to say something, Lisa, Jen?
Yeah, please.
You want to talk first?
Sure, I will. I'm just going to echo the other two gentlemen. Early in your career, I'm going to suggest to you to network and to always finish your degree, finish your education. pursue something that may be related to this, but might be a little outside of this. And I say that because you never know when you're going to pick something up and injure yourself. You should always be ready for a backup plan. This is a really physical job. It's a really mental job. So you really do have to prepare yourself for what's next. That's about where I am.
Can you hear me with this? Or you want me to talk? Okay. So I can speak pretty loudly. My name is Lisa Murray. It was Tebow when I was working. If anybody worked with me then, that's the name I went by. I'm a line of duty injured retiree. And I will tell you to what Jen went on with have something lined up. I was as careful as I could be my entire career until a drunk driver hit me on a call that we were going to a rescue box. It wrecked me for many years. It also put me into a state of what now? Because I hadn't finished my degree when I got wrecked. I have since finished it. But it's not only, you don't get the fanfare when you go out on a line of duty, you're done that day, you're out. There's no gradual, there's no anticipation of I have 62 days left, I'm going to have a party, we're going to go out with friends, and it's going to be this gradual retirement, and I'll see everybody before I leave. So when you retire on a line of duty, it's a sudden loss of the job, and it's a sudden loss of everything you've known for however many years. In my case, it was 14 years. So the people that were my family were non-existent anymore, except for the few that I kept in contact with. And that's not meant to bring you down about retirement. But what I will suggest is, after I was no longer wrecked and I still needed to, let's just say, do some self-rehab, the best decision I made was coming to logistics in the morning, and my savior, Ryan Jones, who allowed me to be able to tie my shoes again, because that's how bad my situation was. I could manage my ADLs, but anything over that, anything strenuous, was impossible. So stay physically fit. And then if you do get injured, maybe it's not so bad. If you do get injured and it is that bad, please take advantage of some of the programs that we have if they put you on light duty. Please take advantage of the fitness programs and the grants that are available to you as current employees. The job is rigorous. At any moment, you could be taken out. And sometimes your injuries are minimal and sometimes they're life-changing. I have been very fortunate to be able to teach at Anne Arundel Community College with Jen, with Ryan, and several other people that may be in this room. And that was because I kept my education current, and I restarted my EMT after 9 years. And now I'm working at the college in the daytime in the summer and in the evenings after being grandma full-time Monday through Friday. So I cannot stress the importance of having a plan. If you don't have a plan, at least have a hobby, something that will take you out of your home a few days a week, conversations with other fellow employees or family, something that gets you out and keeps your mind fresh and keeps your body fresh, whether it's exercise or education or just general conversations with people that you care about.
Hello, my name is Peanut. I've been retired for the 8 years in August. I came in 1984. I consider myself as the bridge between these guys. These guys were, I say, the backbone of the department when I got in. The department was growing. They were advancing. Things were changing. What I'm impressed with is all the safety that comes out that I see now. The second set of turnout gear, the plum event system. Those things are very important to prevent the cancers. I remember when I first went to my doctor, and I said, he says, I'm a firefighter. He says, oh, you guys die young. I said, well, we're trying to prevent that. So I am very impressed with the programs and all the safety features that have come about since I've retired, since I've been in the department. They were moving in the right direction. I would also advise you guys to stay involved with the union. The union, when I first got in, guys like this would say, hey, you might not think so now, but I'm telling you right now, in 30 years, you're going to be very happy that you got involved and participated and fighting and keeping the benefits that we had. And they were 100% right. 100% right. So your participation is needed. I know it doesn't seem like it. Joe does a lot of heavy lifting, but when he calls you and needs you, you got to get out there and help. There's strength in numbers. I retired when I was 54 years old, 33 years. Thanks to the guys like this who put forth a lot of effort and time to get our benefits package the way we have it now. You guys are doing great, but get involved.
With your retirees. For those of you that don't know, if you have 20 years, you can be an associate member of the Retirees Association. And you can join us for our luncheons, breakfasts, anything that we do. And then once you do retire, we encourage you to come to some of our retirees luncheons and anything that we do together. Because we have usually about 150 people that join us for breakfast or lunches.
Yeah, while you're talking about that, Lisa just hit, if you get 20 years and you can join us as an associate member. Well, I'm telling you, if you don't have 20 years in and you want to come to our events, you are more than welcome. We have 2 luncheons and a breakfast every year. We have a bull and oyster roast. We have a crab feast. We have one night where the retirees get together, and we have a lot of our active people. Joe participates in a lot of our stuff. We go to the baseball game. So don't feel that you have to have 20 years in to join us. We would love to see you. You're always welcome. Like Lisa says, when we have our luncheons and our breakfast, we average over 100 people there. Joe doesn't miss any of them unless he's at negotiations or something. But you're all invited to come when you want. I mean, we know some of these it'll affect your shift, but we always have it's always the same day. It'll always be on a Wednesday. Our breakfast is always the first Wednesday in March. Our luncheon is the first Wednesday in June, and our other luncheon's the first Wednesday in November. And also, we give away, I'm sure all of you have read your orders, where we're giving away scholarships. We've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, and this year is the first year that the retirees have added a $5,000 scholarship that we're giving out to someone. So we will be giving away 4 $5,000 scholarships at our June luncheon. So if you haven't read the order that says anything about that, especially for those that are going to college or interested in going, please read the order and get us the information we need that you can qualify to see if you have a chance of having your name picked as one of the lucky recipients. So, but again, you're always welcome to any of our events. We don't play that if you don't have 20 years in. We welcome everyone. I think anybody else? I think that's it.
Questions from the audience? You absorbed everything. Well, tired after. This was a good job. To kind of wrap both of the parts up on having something to do with scholarships, there is, at last count, if I did all the clubs and programs correctly, it's about $100,000 internally that we have available for scholarships. I mean, retirees, the 100 Club, the Emerald Society, John Green. There's a couple others out there, but then also, unless they've stopped it because of budgets, the county offers some money as well. So if you are on the teeter of wanting to go back to school and the one thing stopping you is money, come talk to one of us. We'll figure it out. We'll let you go. Matter of fact, I just got literally way here. Got a phone call from University of Maryland local campus that they're trying to figure out a way to give the person money back because they had so much scholarship money that they earned from us that they're going to pay for their semester. Like they overpaid. How do we give it back to you? So on the backside of things, but there's more than enough money to send you to school. That's actually perfect. Okay.
And Joe, on another light, if somebody does unfortunately go out on line of duty, I have a lot of information as far as what's W-2 line of duty retirees as well. Scholarships for yourself, your family,
I have never used the microphone before. I'm usually loud enough, but my name's Becky Bilheimer. Most of you probably in this room do know me. Probably a lot of you follow me on Facebook or social media where I post a lot of my workouts. That's just, to gather that this is mostly important to me. It's something I speak more on passion than education, stuff that works for me, stuff that works for people I know, and stuff this works for people I've trained in all different aspects of life. Jen was supposed to be here with me, but she was on 74 leave and she had to get back to station 10. Do you have to click for me? Okay. And a lot of this will reiterate a lot of things that we've already heard about sleep and we've already heard about nutrition. It's kind of a whole package to get all three going at once. So the importance of being fit as a first responder, learn about ways to stay fit on and off shift, and discuss ways to implement healthier habits, which we've kind of touched on that last part already with sleep and nutrition. Next. As everybody in this room knows, it's a laborious job. Your fitness level is directly correlated to your work and performance. So the more, in theory, the more in shape you are, the more you can handle, the better you're going to be at this job, whether you're on a medic unit, whether you're on suppression, a rescue engine, whatever you're doing, at times, this can be very strenuous for us. And so hitting things on and off shift to make our everyday lives at work a little easier. Go ahead, Steve. Why is being fit important to you? I've always enjoyed working out, so that comes easy to me. I like being fit. I like being fit for work so that I can do things so I'm not getting sore, I'm not getting hurt. I more importantly like being fit for my home life. I like being fit that I can go to the park with the kids. I like being fit that I can hit the baseball further than they can catch it. Things like that I can run around. So not just work, but also at home. I like to be fit. Would anybody like to give an example or reason why they enjoy being fit? Come on. Stay strong. It is. It's fun to be strong, right? I lift heavy just because I like to say that I lift heavier than I did a month or two ago. Go ahead, next. Some quick stats on firefighters. We see a lot of this throughout the day. Go ahead, or throughout any of these presentations. So 44% of firefighters' death by nature of injury is cardiac arrest, sudden cardiac arrest. They landed that in the academy day one. It's nothing new. Probably not, honestly, not going to change dramatically. But by us trying to get more fit, getting our cardio up, or VO2 max, we're trying to ultimately to lower that number. Interval training from not moving to like sprinting and being out of breath, we hope helps that factor when I'm sitting in the recliner and a cardiac arrest or structure fire comes out and you go from 0 to a heart rate of 120, and my body has done that before. On my own, in a controlled environment, the way I want it to be done. I'm in the gym not doing anything. I work out at home in my garage. I sprint to the stop sign and back. And then I lift heavy load. I'm just trying to produce, to do things that I think I'm going to see in the field that'll help me not get fatigued on that call, physically, mentally, even emotionally. Like it sounds absolutely insane. I try sometimes to work out like as hard as possible that I don't have to think about anything else except for breathing or like, this is not going to work. So push myself to that limit. You practice that. So then on the job, when my heart is racing mentally, physically, that like my body knows what to do and I know how to handle that stress. Next. 43% of duty fatalities have been cardiac arrest over the past 10 years. Next. I'll just read these. This is all saying the same thing. We need to fix our heart, keep our hearts healthy. Go ahead, next. Same thing. So I just looked up, I'm going to not say that what metabolic equivalent while doing a task is what METS is, I'm pretty sure. And firefighters with under 10 have a higher risk of developing some metabolic syndrome. Reduce the risk by to 31 with every 1 MET added to your VO2. Really, that's just saying let's make our hearts be able to work stronger. Our heart is like any other muscle, whether you're running, whether you're lifting, whatever it is, we're working on that heart. And every time we get better, and there's a whole test that we can ultimately put you through that gives us a number to know where you are for NFPA standards. Go ahead, next, Steve. That's a big number. 60,750 firefighter injuries. Bottom line is, if you read both of these strains, strains, sprains, and muscular pain. Strains, sprains, and muscular pain. So whether it's me, or like, because you can reach out to me as a peer fitness trainer, or now called a tactical fitness mentor. Rehab to Perform. We have lots of things to minimize all this. Is this going to happen in our line of duty or in our line of work in the next, whatever, 10, 15 years, 20 years? Yeah, it's going to happen for sure, 100%. By working out, really is what I'm talking about, but also by improving your sleep and also by fueling your body the right way. We'll minimize all three of those things. Next. I'm not reading that. Next. It was all, I wasn't even, so I like this slide personally. Almost everybody I think I would talk to, I would really like that third green box to be first. I want you to strength train, whatever that is for you, and we can talk about that a little bit, and then do some cardio. But you need to do some strength training. This is, I mean, we're talking just to have, I no longer work out like to look good. I work out like so that I have bone density to be able to do this longer. I got hired at 38. We're praying to make it 20 years, right? I'm praying to make it, all I want to do is make it 20 years, be 58 years old, and then still hopefully be able, my daughter might be at the verge of maybe having grandkids at that point, right? She's 10, 11, that's 15 years. She had 26, no, we need more time than that. But anyway, strength training does way more, and it doesn't, everybody's strength training is different. I'm not asking you to pick up a barbell and deadlift 300 pounds, okay? That's not for everybody. But I am asking you to buy a kettlebell. I mean, you can buy a water jug. You can go get a jug of water. It has a handle on it, or a gallon of milk that you already drank, or throw it out and use that to move it. Move it from point A to point B. And then on top of that, cardio. And honestly, at this point, cardio for me is walking, and that is fine. Walking is an exercise. Move your body with a purpose for however many minutes a day, whatever, you know. If we're doing, so walking would be moderate. I have to do more. 150 to 300 minutes is what's recommended. If you're going for a jog or much more like where you're breathing heavier, whether that's biking or rowing or the skier, you know, you can take the minutes in half and do a bit of a combination of the both. But we do want cardio and strength training. Becky's words, I want you to strength train, and let's get in some cardio. Next. Health effects of shift work. We've heard this from almost everybody who presented on the health and safety side. We know we have cancer. I am not a science. I mean, Megan has a degree in very science. Whatever the workout does, it helps break down those cells that are trying to create cancer for us. So workout will get rid of that. Working out along with your fiber for Megan can absolutely help all of our GI problems. Not fix, help. Some of us need way more help with GI issues and definitely see a doctor. Obviously, working out can help your cardiovascular disease and all of our metabolic. Working out and moving will help your metabolism. So will sleeping well, and so will fueling your body for sure. This is almost like a 3-tier triangle. Again, probably most importantly, you need to fix your sleep, and people, especially first responders, don't want to hear fixing your sleep. You have to fix your sleep as best as you can. None of this is perfect. Sleep, nutrition, exercise, we cannot be perfectionists. Doing it consistently is way better than doing it perfectly. To show up and do a little bit when you can is way better than all in or all out. And a lot of us, including myself, I'm a very all-in person. So once a day, once I have a bagel and a donut, and I'm down for pizza tonight because the day's already over. And that's not the right way to think. I can still control lunch. I could still control dinner. But so consistency over perfection. Next. Habits on shift. Bring snacks. I don't know, you haven't all ridden in the medic unit with me, but you'll never go hungry. I'm a mom, so we always usually have enough for everybody. Bring snacks, meal prep, and supplements, protein. Aim for going to bed. This is Jen and I did a lot of this together, so she touched on some of this already. Aim for going to bed at a consistent time. If time allows, plan for a conditioning day or active recovery day around commitments on shift. This slide and the next one, I think the next one's like habits off shift. They're going to kind of mimic each other. A lot of like Monday through 5 people, day work people, if you can get into, and this is, I hope I'm speaking to an audience of people that already work out, right? That's what I want. I want to show up and everyone will be like, yeah, I already work out. Cool. Let me hear about what you do. Maybe I could take some things away. But I used to be Monday you bench, Tuesday your back squat, Wednesday I do a full body, Thursday shoulder to overhead, Friday deadlifts, done. And at my OCD, when shift work would throw that off, well, oh my God, it's a Friday and I haven't done back squats yet. Like, where do I pick up where I left off? I'm going to start over on Monday. So we kind of I had to kind of rearrange in my head as this is just, for example, maybe to help somebody to plan. Everything's planned up on my 3 days off. I specifically, what I do on shift is walk on the treadmill. And we do get a lot of steps in anyway, but it's just more deliberate than what I'm going to do that day anyway. Walk on the treadmill. I used to get up and go into a firehouse at 5 and try and work out from 5 to 6. But then you still get a call at 5:40 and you're in the basement and you go up and take that call. And it's not for me to actually pick up weights and work out on shift when you're at any firehouse that runs 8 to 15 calls in 24 hours. It's just, I mentally can't get into it that I might hear the tones go off and have to drop everything. It just wasn't for me. It can be for some people. And there are a lot of people that show up early or say after their shift to use the gyms that you have in the station, which I would also recommend. But everything is planned off of my 3 days off on when I'm going to get in those lifts and when I might get in some accessory work or conditioning. Also, be flexible, consistency over perfection. If I ran 17 calls after core competencies and being out of service for 2.5 hours and still ran 17 calls on engine 26, I am not working out the next day. I don't know who we're kidding. It's not going to happen. So I have a notebook and I just pick up where I left off for all of it. Let's see what the next one says. It's going to be pretty similar. Off shifts. See, Jen and I are very similar. Strength train 2 to 3 times a week. Work around your first day off, depending on how you feel. First day might be different than days 2 and 3 are my harder days. Days 2 and 3, I know I'm going to get in a workout. Plan training days as well as rest days. Consistent sleep, meal prep. So when it comes to this is a little more nutrition and fiber related. I do buy a lot of the high fiber carbs. It overall does not change the macro count. Don't worry about that. If you're just looking at fiber, like I pack my wraps, I pack my bread, so that whatever the firehouse is making, and this is just if you want, if this is a goal that you're looking to have for short term or whatever, I pack that stuff so I can still eat the protein. I can still eat whatever they made. I just plug in my little protein snacks or I'm trying to think of something that we had some meal with like no protein at all. It might have just been spaghetti and garlic bread or something. And that's fine. It's delicious. But I tend to have like 3 to 4 ounces of cooked chicken on me so that I can eat that chicken so that it's just me. It's just what I like to do to make sure that I'm getting protein in every meal and getting my fiber snacks and things like that. I will also hit on creatine. You should take it. Everybody should take 5 grams of creatine. You probably need 5 grams of creatine every single day. There's a lot of brain benefits. They give it to Alzheimer's patients. Like creatine is by far the most studied supplement. And I've been taking it consistently since like August or September. I do believe it helps with fatigue. Days I get no sleep on shift, I do double it up to 10 just that day. There's research that it can help, just like caffeine, helping you get through the fog to push through till nighttime. But everyone should take creatine for the supplement and back to consistent sleep. I'm not sure if there's much left in this. I am just like any other goal. Like track your stuff. Like don't just walk into a gym. I mean, you can't just walk into a gym or and be, I don't know, stand there and stare at it and pick some stuff up, do some bicep curls. I mean, if you plan and you write it down or use an app, you can consistently track. We're looking for progress. Progressive overload. If you lift the 5-pound dumbbells for 2.5 weeks, I want you to go up and try the 12s if they have them, or go up and try the 15s and bump your reps back down. There are a handful of TFMs in the department, and a lot of us work out differently. So there may be contact information. If not, you can email me anytime and I can lead you the direction if I think it's not something that I would specialize in or that I'm comfortable with. They can help you draw out the plan, can give you a rep range, and then in 3 weeks, check back in with me, see how you're feeling, and maybe add that. And You'll have others that do more cardio. You'll have others that maybe do more yoga. The point is that we need to move in order to make our careers longer, but really so that we can live well past this career into whatever else that looks like for us. Anybody have any questions? Oh, small changes. Okay, here, let's go. Evening walks that also after you eat, even on shift if you can, go for a walk after a meal. That can absolutely help, and it'll help you get a little bit of exercise in there. Water consumption, water. If you are sweating, like Megan said, personally, I'm a liquid IV person. I probably have 2 or 3 in my snack bag now because we have, on our units, we can get the water bottles and I can throw that in if you're sweating. Because you do need the electrolytes. Or if you even, let's go not on duty, and you just did a ruck or a long hike at Capsco or wherever, and you can see like the dried sweat marks, or you just know you don't just drink water. Add a little bit of electrolytes. One packet, it'll help you hydrate a lot faster. Because you don't want to be dehydrated off a crazy workout the day before shift and show up on shift and go to a structure fire, and then it's just gonna keep accumulating. Or if you get the water and you get the electrolytes, prioritize sleep. I could 100%. That would be first for me. I didn't prioritize sleep until I was drafted for paramedic school with a 2-month-old baby. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, you have to make sleep important. End of conversation. I put in a transfer for 7-9, so I was on day work for the majority of it. And I went to bed. My whole house is in bed between 9 and 10, no matter what, lights out. And my husband's up at 5, I'm up by 6. Like it's just been he'll be 4. So for about 4 years now, I have really made sleep. I track it. I made sleep, and it's not an end all be all, these trackers, but they do give you really nice trends if it's something you're looking into. And you can tell, like, oh, it says that I did not sleep. I think my watch only logged no sleep like once on a shift, like none. And then that's why you feel like crap the next day. But here we are. Those are our contact information. It's all our FD emails. So in the department, you could just search for us and we're going to pop up on there. Fun fact, I've never worked at 11. I'm assigned there. Long-term detail to 21, still on D shift. So, and the email's the same if you need to reach out to me. Seriously, I could put together any program if you wanted. If I think you're not in my scope or what I enjoy doing, I can send you to anybody else. And you can always reach out to Ursula. Well, she's on maternity leave right now, and she can filter you down through people that you might see fit for you. Anybody have any questions? Okay, good. Thank you.
All of you guys relax, right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, this was so bad. It's over.
No. You're fine. So we transitioned to the TFM. Becky, come back. Sorry. We transitioned to the TFM. We've had peer fitness trainers for a while. What is the difference? Where do you, Becky, see the TFM fitting into the daily firefighters' life, daily firefighter routine?
Well, it's more it should be, and so just pure fitness being fit, it's the technical fitness side. So with whether it's Bulgarian split squats or Romanian deadlifts or whatever, with using a stretcher, with picking patients up, proper form on the back squat. We do have to bend over between a bathtub and a sink, or they're down the steps. So we're looking more towards the tactical side. Like wrapping, like the workout I would give you, you would be able to see in what we do there every day. Throwing a ladder, how to hold it, the offset kettlebells so that you can distribute your weight properly when you're only holding a ladder on one side. Shoulder mobility. I wanted to reach for my radio and the Medicine. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do something like this. So it's just things like that you reach out to us. It's as simple as the stuff we do every day. Blocks, the step ups, the points of contact coming out of the back of the unit backwards on the stairs appropriately so don't twist anything coming off. All things that we would do as a tactical fitness mentor. I don't know if that answers the question.
And there goes, lumbar, whatever the case is. So making sure that you are focusing on, I keep doing this thing at work and it hurts. All right. A, stop doing it. But B, reach out to our folks to say, hey, how can I continue to do this and not have it hurt? What do I need to do differently? how do I, we're talking about this morning, improve my golf swing instead of getting new clubs, right? Instead of getting new clubs, change my body mechanics, make them work for me, not me work for him. Poor form just leads to bad performance over time. So it is just about 130 to 135. We have reps from Mass Mutual, T Road Price, Rehab Perform, CrossFit Glen Burnie, and then our own folks internal as well. We're going to pull these tables back just a little bit. Please mingle with our folks, talk to them about finances, future, your fitness. It's like it all fits in together. That's weird. And then we're here as well. Please let me know if you have any questions as we go. Thank you very much for attending. Please don't forget the magazines to support our sponsors, Browse, Rehab Forum, for the food today, Cracker for the magazines, the union for supplying the facilities, and everybody's here. So enjoy the afternoon, continue to work with our breakout groups, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you.